Tonight on the Black Channel, we're going to have a straightforward discussion. A discussion that is long overdue and needs to be had. The question is, do black people think that Kamala Harris is really black? And we are going to go into that discussion tonight. We're not going to do the program the way we usually do. I'm going to open up the phone lines here in just a couple of minutes. I'm going to open up the Zoom. And I'm going to have you all weigh in on that. Is Kamala Harris, in the opinion of black people, is she actually a black person? There are dimensions to what that means. We're not going to have the hotep hobos come in with their usual etymology psychoses about the definition of what black is. We're not going to get into their psychoses. As a group, as a people, we know what it is, what it means to live black, to eat this, drink this, sleep this, think this, feel this, live this, love this, everything we are. We know what it means when we invoke the names of the luminaries and the elder gods of state and the ancestors of our lineage who are the only reason that any of us are still here today. Can Kamala Harris do the same? Better question, has she ever done the same? Does she speak with reverence at the names of Carter G. Woodson, at the names Ida B. Wells, at the name Malcolm X, at the name Eldridge Cleaver, at the name Martin Luther King Jr., not the way her white friends do, but from our perspective, not of something that you read in a book somewhere, but the stories in your family of the people who had to make it through that experience, and you are a beneficiary of that. Does Kamala Harris have any frame of reference of what it means to be a black person in this society and what that word actually means in its socio-political, ethnic, racial context? Does she have any clue? What part of her life does she draw back to that is ingrained in the soil of that? Because you see, for decades now, she speaks about us, quote, as a group, but nothing specific about herself. In other words, she speaks about us as a person standing on the outside looking in, not a person on the inside looking around. And this has been the struggle and the trial of many a biracial person who has had to make the decision about whether or not they take the easy road and get the benefits of non-blackness or whether they take the difficult road and end up suffering all the deficiencies and oppression and discomfort that comes along with identifying as one of us. And then you have to look at them holistically, because you see, politics is a place where liars and con artists and chameleons and con women go to see if they can get benefits. And Kamala Harris has been charged as being guilty of being one of those people over the course of decades. So we're having a conversation. For those of you who are not black, this is the home and the haven of intelligent black thought. We've been doing this now for well over a decade. Our credentials are platinum plated. This is the only place where you will hear an intelligent, unbiased, genuine conversation about this, not hosted and held by the bootlick ass-kissing Democrat shills that nobody can believe, not propped up by the boule Divine Nine sorority simps and suckers, but from real black people who are not owned by political parties, who don't aspire to be a part of corporate media outlets. This is the only place where you get to hear the soil. So what I'm going to do here is we're going to go ahead and we are going to have a commercial break. And when we come back, I'm going to open up the phone lines. The phone lines will be open to everyone. I'm going to open up the Zoom as well. It'll be open to everyone. As you can see, we are getting right into it. And we are going to have a discussion here tonight about, do black people think that Kamala Harris is really black? This is the Black Channel.
Hi, I'm Mr. B, and I welcome you to visit my website, mrbtheteacher.com. Explore our site for my latest book, my blog, and podcast that are packed with insightful articles, tips, and strategies to help students navigate the educational journey. Need more help? Check out my education consulting and tutoring services for engaging lessons, downloadable resources, and personalized learning plans. Please join us at mrbtheteacher.com today. Thank you all for listening.
A white supremacist assassin seeks revenge. Corrupt FBI agents with evil intentions. Dangerous black collaborators dedicated to treason. Occam Jeffers must defeat them all and somehow survive. One misstep and he's a dead man. Join Occam Jeffers as he looks the devil in his blue eyes and tells him, "Black first." A sequel to the underground hit War of the Heart, Spirit of 1811 Publishing presents God Love Us, on sale at Amazon. Pre-order and save today. Visit spiritofo1811publishing.com and show your love.
Order yours today to experience all the benefits of Ash Kickin' Body Butter. With skin so smooth and soft, you'll thank us for it. Shop Ash Kickin' online. That's ASHKICKIN.com.
Hi, this is Brenda Starr, creator of Poetry with a Purpose and author of the book Pressed But Not Crushed. Pressed But Not Crushed is an anthology of political poems that address current and historical issues in American descendants of slave population and African American population. The book describes slaveries and its residuals, Jim Crow segregation, social depredation, and other relevant issues to American descendants of slaves and African Americans, including the current political climate that does not address our issues.
This is the Black Channel. I am your host, your brother, your humble servant, the Black Authority. Very glad to be with you all here this evening as we are hosting a discussion asking a simple question. Do black people think that Kamala Harris is really black? Which, of course, would beg the question, what does being black mean? Well, I'm going to discuss black tonight in its cultural context, in its historical context here in America, because that's a very important thing. And I don't think I could do that without asking, how does the person live? Kamala Harris could be a young woman born to an Indian mother and a Jamaican father, but you see, those are your parents. The question is, how does she live in her daily life? When she gets up in the morning, what type of life is she living? Well, we have a few suspicions about the life that she lives on a daily basis. We have a few suspicions as to what that is. And when you go back over her younger years, when people want to say that, well, she went to an HBCU. And I would beg the question here, what were the motives for doing so? Because you see, if we may, have a brutally frank conversation here tonight, biracial people understand that if they're going to get some black credentials, they want to go, there's an easy way to get black credentials is to go in certain circles. And individuals like Kamala Harris have known for decades that there were places they could go where they would be looked up to and automatically given status. You take a look at this picture right here. Take a look and see where your light-skinned folk are at When you take a look at the picture there, you can see where that is. You can see where they tend to be. Well, we've all seen this our whole lives now, haven't we? I'm not sitting up here speaking out of turn. I'm just saying we need to have a real, for real conversation. If you're going to claim that her sorority and her HBCU attendance are her black credentials, and so far nobody's mentioned anything outside of that. The only thing they say is she went to an HBCU. She probably black sorority. Okay, well, if those are her black credentials and that's the only thing you can name, because you can't name anything from 2023 or 2024. Since you can't name anything from today, all they can do is go rummaging through the crates and talk about 30 years ago or 40 years ago in her case. But what they can't do is talk about the here and the now. If you're going to try to invoke the sororities or the HBCUs, you might want to find friendlier ground to defend, because you see, there's a historical context that comes up with them. Because you see, some things don't change. There is a tradition in your HBCUs and your sororities. There's a tradition of finding the light-skinned people. What? And they realize that they get put at the top of the pecking order and they get lionized. The others crowd around them like they're a celebrity long before they ever could even be one. Their lighter skin makes them celebrities in those environments, and they know it, which is why they gravitate to those places. Jason, that's just 2 pictures so far. Okay, well, Jason, that's just 3 pictures so far. We can do this for a while if you want to. You don't really want to play this game. We can do this for a while if you want to. This, I would suggest to you that this is what it means to be, quote, black in Kamala Harris's world and her experience. This is what it means. And the question is that, does it mean the same thing to the rest of us? Is this what it means to be black for the rest of us? These are critical questions for us to ask if you're going to tell us that we need to shut up and vote. No, we're not going to stop talking, and we're certainly not going to stop thinking. Do black people, those of us who've had to live this experience in America, is she one of us, or is she not like us? Does she live the life that we do every day, or is she living something else? And if she's living something else, then how in the world are you going to give her our credentials and she doesn't have them? How are you going to steal and rob our credentials and she doesn't have them? So what I want to do here, I'm going to go ahead and open up the Zoom here. For everybody who's here on Zoom, I want you to go ahead and get on here. I'm not going to require you necessarily to be on camera, but I am going to require your camera to be on just so I can see, to make sure trolling is not an issue here. So if you want to be on Zoom, you can do that. I will not necessarily require you to be on camera, but you will have to turn it on so I can make sure that we don't have any issues with folk trying to troll or whatever. I got a couple of folk in there now. If they don't turn their cameras on, though, they'll be banned. So we will have that as an option as well. Okay, whoever's on Zoom there, you got no lights on, so I don't know if you're hanging out in a hut somewhere in Kenya, but light a candle, set something on fire that you're not going to sit on, unmute your microphone. You have 5 seconds to get yourself straightened out, or we're going to have to move on. We cannot spend the whole program waiting on people, so if you got a lighting issue there, the generators have been turned off for the evening out there in Ethiopia or whatever the case may be, you know, we want to let y'all get your act together on that. So, first of all, unmute yourself. That's the first thing. Okay, Aura, unmute yourself.
I'm unmuted.
All right, there you go. All right, Aura, and what is on your mind?
No, I do not feel as though Kamala is black, but what other options do we have at this point?
Didn't ask that. Why do you think that she is not black?
No, I said I think she is black.
Okay, you think you think she is. Explain to me why you say that.
Well, her father is Jamaican, and Jamaicans are black. So
okay, well, there are Jamaican folk actually who are not actually, so you might want to get a little bit more up to date on that. However, even if you do give that to her father, who, by the way, is not a dark-skinned Negro by any stretch of the imagination, and if you go into his lineage there, kind of questionable as far as that's concerned. But let me ask you a question here. Are you saying, how exactly do you define black in a modern context?
Well, I feel is that if your father, not your mother, if your father is black, then that automatically qualifies you as being black.
Okay, define black, please.
Anybody of African American descent.
Okay, well, they're Jamaican, so the African American part would be a little bit challenging, but I think I get the idea what you're saying there. Melanated African descent. Understood. Yeah. One more question. Is that what makes a person black? Their genetic makeup?
Yes, I think so. Yes.
So you think that being black is one criterion, your genetic makeup?
Yes, if you genetically, your DNA is black, then you can't change that.
Okay. How about a person's identity? How they self-identify? Is that a factor in whether or not we classify them as being one of us?
Well, I'm gonna say it this way. No, I don't think it classifies because you cannot change your DNA.
Didn't ask you about changing the DNA. I'm saying that, is that a factor, or do you think that's irrelevant how they self-identify?
Let me think about that. No. Now, do I think that they will?
I don't know what that means. I don't know what that means. When you say no, what are you saying no to?
No, I don't think how they identify. Yes, to the part that I think that does not make them not black, but it does weigh in heavy on how they're going to perceive other blacks because they don't feel as though they are black.
Okay, and if you have a person who is conflicted about their blackness, and thus it shapes how they deal with the rest of us, do you feel that that is a factor in classifying them as black, or do you think that's irrelevant?
I think that it is, I would say 50-50. I think it is irrelevant as far as how they're going to treat black people, but I don't think it's a factor in saying that they're not black.
There's the reason why I asked this question, and there's a reason why you're conflicted with it. Because the reason why is because understand what you were saying. And this is why it's essential to have this conversation. Not hosted by shills, sellouts, political puppets, and flunkies and idiots, but people who actually have a real solid ideology. When you say that blackness is merely something you are born and that it's not something you do, then by definition, you've just annihilated culture. Culture is not something you are born, the root word, of course, being from cult. It is not something you're born, it's what you do. So if you attempt to say that you're just born it and that there's no connection between the born and your actions, then you don't have a black culture either. So when you say black, you just say it's just a genetic makeup and it's not a culture, it's not a behavior, it's not something we pass down, it's not something that we do. Just understand that you can have that definition you have. Just understand that you just erase the complete idea of culture altogether.
Well, with Black people, not all Black people have the same culture.
Not true. Not true.
How is that not true?
Not true. Not true, ma'am, because when you say Black culture, period, you have to, by definition, have lines of similarity. That is the whole reason why we have been making a point of who is it that classifies themselves as one of us. You cannot try to classify yourself as one of us and then immediately say, by the way, I'm different. There's where the problem comes in. The idea of Pan-Africanism was viable as long as everyone agreed to the same rules of the road. Once you had individuals decide, well, I'm different, or groups say, I'm different, that's where it falls apart. So by definition, you cannot have that and disregard it. Let me go a little bit deeper with you here. When we discussed what used to be Pan-Africanism, we looked for points of commonality, points of similarity. That was what we did. That was the reason it was viable. If you're going to say, well, people can think of themselves differently, well, certainly they can, but they can't think of themselves differently and then still be one of us. Can they? There you go. If you're going to be a free agent and, well, I've got y'all's skin tone and your phenotype, but I don't really share your culture or your experience, Houston, we have a problem. Let me go a little bit deeper here because you've asked a question here and I can see in your eyes, people cannot see right now, y'all. She is bugged out looking all over the place. She's going glitch and tilt. Let me ask you a question here. When you ask about the concept of being, quote, an American, when you're asked about that concept, you do realize that basically they're referring to being an American as an ideology. If you're a person born in the former Soviet Union, well, if you don't subscribe to communism, if you subscribe to the concept of, in theory, freedom of speech, freedom of press, freedom of religion, freedom of expression, well, that's not compatible with where you came from. Sounds like you have much more in common with those Westerners than you do with us here in the Eastern Bloc. Go to communist China, same thing. It sounds like you have much more in common with those Americans, and vice versa. If you start talking about how much you like having a monotheistic religion and you should pray 3 times a day and you shouldn't eat pork, well, it sounds like you have much more in common with those Muslims than you do with the Baptists you were raised around. Does that make sense now?
It makes sense. Yeah, it makes sense.
So you can be born in a Baptist home, but if your behavior, your identity, if you do not share the same thing with us, that's going to be a problem. So you can be raised around people and not have the same practices. You can be sitting right next to them and not have the same thing. At that point, do we then try to put you in a headlock and demand that you're going to be one of us and tell you that, no, you just think you're different? Or are they, in fact, different by choice?
I think by choice.
Then if you have a person who does not live our life on a daily basis, there's an issue. Now, let me go back to what you said there before, because some folks might have thought we got lost in the woods, and actually we have not. Let's go ahead and take a look. And when you say that we're not all the same, but for those who identify as us, we better be all the same, because case in point, can you live the life that Kamala Harris or Clarence Thomas or Stacey Dash have lived and then claim you're one of us? Because if you can't do that and be one of us, then by definition, to be one of us, we are all the same. If you're one of us, we actually are. Whether you're in America, the UK, the African continent, do you identify with our culture, our beliefs, we all we got, the reverence of our history, the fact that the world has animosity towards people who look like us, but for a specific set of reasons? Do you identify with that, or do you see yourself as different? When you take a look at Kamala Harris, what part of her life mirrors ours, our daily life and our daily experience? What part of it does?
From what I can see or what I know, no parts of it.
When you find any black person anywhere, now listen to what I'm going to tell you next, whether you were born in the southern United States, the northern United States, Midwestern United States, Eastern United States, Western United States, we have specific points of commonality. Specific ones that individuals who simply do not spend any time around us don't share, period. They tend to be very stiff, very awkward. They're not comfortable in their own skin. Particularly, they're not comfortable simply around us unless they see themselves as in a dominant position. Well, that seems like you have more in common with the traditional overseer class, not among the soil. Kamala Harris is very stiff. Kamala Harris is very stiff. Kamala Harris is very uncomfortable. Kamala Harris is very unmasterful. And she's always been that way, except when she's given positions of authority over black people. Why, then she downright loosens right up. Now, isn't that interesting? When she became a prosecutor, well, she downright loosened right up. Yes, when she was able to control her interactions with us. When she was given authority, quote, over us, well, I'll be damned, she wasn't all stiff and awkward anymore. It's only when she has to show, by the way, where's your point of commonality with us? She throws on some Chuck Taylors and some lime purple ass suit and looks weird as hell and starts talking about Phife Dawg and Tupac. Something that those of us from the soil simply would not do. We could talk about our own personal lives, and the rest of us are going to see points of commonality. How could you be raised in this society and not have the same experience? Unless you've been in this society and you've been separated from our experience. In which case, can you be one of us? And then you take a look at the end result. Take a look at how she lives her daily life. So I would suggest to you, and notice I have not once said that you're wrong. I have not one time said that you're wrong, have I?
Oh, absolutely not.
But I would challenge you to consider blackness is simply a genetic makeup. It is not something we do. It isn't something we think. It isn't something that we breathe every day when we get up. That when you see the majesty of a Malcolm X, when you take a look at our icons, Ella Fitzgerald, when she would start singing, Patti LaBelle, that does something to you that it does not do to other people at a basic level, and I would suggest to you that it resonates around the world. When we hear our icons speak and dance, Quincy Jones or whoever, when you hear that, it resonates. Barry White, it resonates. Quincy Jones, Lou Rawls, it resonates. The Four Tops, The Temptations, Nat King Cole, Sam Cooke, that does something to us. There's a reason why our singing is given a specific term, soulin'.
I agree with that.
When you say that, we ain't just singing when black folk go in that falsetto and what Phil Collins called embroidery. We call that soulin'. You singing from the soul. I'm not sticking by notes. I'm going where my soul tells me the melody goes. These other folks are like, what is that? They've had literally tens of thousands of years to do that. No one else ever has. Just us here. And all of us, none of us look at that as that's weird, that's strange, that's bizarre. None of us do that. Yes, sister, we are the same. Yeah, we are. Unless you're not like us. Somebody said Aretha Franklin. You could put Aretha out there doing her thing for decades now. We ain't looking at her crazy, except those who are not one of us. And immediately it hits them as, ooh, what you doing all that for? Well, we've only seen that response one place, those outside of us. Who do not do the same thing that we do. And Kamala Harris, I would challenge anyone to show me where she does that. If you picked up her phone today and took a look at her playlist on her phone, I wonder what you would find. I'll let you have the last word.
I agree. I just have to look further into it. But I do agree with what you're saying. But Black culture we do have a Black culture, and it is true.
Can you be Black with no connection to the culture? Because Asians don't say you can be. Arabs don't say you can be. Muslims don't say you can be. To my folks who live in California, Texas, Florida, Latinos don't say that. One of the biggest issues with being a Latino, if you have a Latino surname, if you can't speak Spanish, they immediately side-eye you. They immediately start criticizing you. They immediately say, what do you mean you don't speak your people's language? They don't give a damn where you're from, where you live. If you carry a Latino surname and you don't speak the language, you immediately get taken to task. They immediately start questioning you. So in other words, you can't just be born like that. And you can't just carry the name. They're asking, what do? You couldn't take out the time to learn that? Jessica Alba, remember, she caught hell when she tried that. What do you mean you don't speak our language and you trying to claim this? No, you can't. Everybody else understands the two must go together. We come over here to us and then folks are confused. And so, well, you can be Black, but you don't have to. It's not something that we do. Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Yeah, I agree with that, because you feel more comfortable around people that act like you. Not when I say act, I don't mean like attitude. I mean just do the same things you do, talk the way you talk.
Because it didn't come from nowhere.
Right.
It did what we do. Our culture as a people, the way we talk, the way we move, the way we act, that didn't just come from nowhere. That came from somewhere, which is why, yeah, we all do have a commonality. We're not all the same. Yeah, actually, we kind of are. Yeah, we actually kind of are, because our mannerisms and our culture didn't just come from nowhere. It came from somewhere, which is why so many of us have it. It's not just one person over there. Thank you very much for giving us a call. Let me go ahead and see if I can bring Bruce on here. Let me bring Bruce up here on Zoom. And by the way, if you're on Zoom, for everybody there, I won't necessarily put you on the big screen, but please make sure you have your camera and your microphone turned on, just so we can see you. Make sure there's no chicanery. All right, Bruce, we've got you on here. And what is on your mind? We'll turn off your speakers there. You got me going.
On here, wait a minute, and
yeah, turn off your YouTube or whatever you got speakers on.
Here, wait a minute, and turn off your YouTube or whatever.
I want to just turn it off, Bruce.
And turn off your YouTube or whatever. I want to just turn it off, Bruce.
Okay, he is working on this newfangled technology. I'll give him a chance to get the grandkids to come over and help get him straightened out on that. Let me go ahead and see if I can get James here. Let me go ahead and see if I can bring James on. James, make sure we have our camera and microphone turned on, just so we make sure there's no chicanery. All right, James, we got you up front here. All right, sir, and what is on your mind?
How are you? The first thing I wanted to say was, and is, you sound like a preacher, to be honest with you.
Okay, you got speakers on or something there, so if you got a delay, that's going to throw you off. So you're going to want to make sure if you got those headphones on, I'm not sure they're on the delay or not, but make sure that you're not confused. Because I heard myself just a little bit of echo, and I'm like, he's going to spend a lot of time on this phone call confused. I can tell. Anyway, James, what's on your mind?
Okay, now you can hear me clearly without the echo, am I right?
All right, go ahead.
Okay, first thing I wanted to say is, I agree 1,000% with what you're saying. Now, the delivery, I think, could be a lot better. I know you're very passionate about the things that you say. I know, just to answer your question, because I've seen her birth certificate, that Kamala Harris isn't Black. She doesn't represent the African American experience.
Okay, brother, you're kind of wandering all over the place here. First of all, I don't know what relevance delivery has to do with anything, but how do you define Black?
Black to me is African American, people who were born and raised in the United States of America. Yes, I am new here, Hurricane.
So simply being born and raised in the United States of America makes you Black?
Absolutely.
That's the only metric or criterion required.
Exactly. Yes. Born and raised as an African American of African descent.
Okay, so you don't think that there is any other criterion involved? How you behave, how you act, mannerisms, cultural behavior, habits, routine. You don't think there's anything else involved?
That becomes subjective.
Okay, sir, second, let me try again. So you don't think there's anything else involved? Yes or no?
I think nothing else is involved. I'm saying we're getting subjective. If we can cancel people out for the way they speak or the way they walk or what they eat and where they sleep, then it's all subjective. It's all versed off somebody else's opinion.
Okay, sir, is there a criterion to be classified as an American?
Born in the United States of America.
Okay, sir, is there anything beyond simply a geographic place where you are born that constitutes being an American?
No.
Okay, sir, so you've never heard the phrase anti-American activities?
I absolutely have, but if you're
okay, then, sir, what is the definition of anti-American activities, sir?
People who will desecrate anything American or don't agree with Americans' philosophies.
Oh, interesting, because you just said that being an American is merely where you're born. Now you just said that being American is what you do, not simply where you're born.
I didn't. What I said was...
You were asked what anti-American is and to define it, and you did. Okay. You said it was an activity, something that you do.
Anti-American is different from being an American. Okay, I can be anti-black and be a black man, can I not?
You all, this is what I mean, talking in both directions. So
no, I'm asking you, can I be anti-black? You know, I think I can be. If I didn't like my own people, I could be anti-black.
Well, being black is not an incidental characteristic of how you're born. There is a behavioral component that also determines blackness.
No. Like I said, if you're born, Hitler was supposedly Jewish and he hated Jews.
Sir, if the inverse of being American was merely if being American is merely where you're born, then being anti-American would simply be foreign born.
Anti is hate, is it not?
It can be defined as that, but that's not American. You said that what makes you American is where you're born.
Yes, but
when you're asked about anti-American, you said, "Oh, wait a minute, that's what you do."
Anti-American is I hate Americans.
Okay, well,
it has nothing to do with where you're born. You don't have. You could be an American citizen and hate America, but you are an American citizen.
How can you? But sir, if what makes you American is where you're born, then you can't have a behavioral component in it as well, sir. You're talking against yourself.
No, like
I won't go round and round. I've already proven you're talking against yourself.
No, I mean, like I said,
play this for yourself. Play this for yourself enough times. I'm not going to say it's going to make sense to you, but play it for yourself enough times.
So let me ask you one question,
sir. Well, I'm going to ask the question, sir. I'm going to ask the question here about being black. Yes. The question is about: do we think that the person is really black? And what you're saying is there is no behavioral component that comprises blackness.
I don't believe so.
You don't believe so, or there isn't, sir? That's a simple question. Is blackness something you simply are, has nothing to do with what you do, or is blackness what you are and what you do? Simple question.
And I've said it 1,000 times. It's who I am. I'm black.
So there's no behavioral component. There isn't anything you do that qualifies or disqualifies you as black.
No.
Where are your people from?
Texas.
I do not believe that. Not with that gap in them teeth.
Oh my goodness. You don't have no clue. I'm a Eubanks, okay? My family is from Texas, from Pine, upshore Texas. I know my family for 250 years. Okay, because somebody has a difference of opinion of you.
I didn't say a difference of opinion, sir. I'm not talking about opinion.
First of all, you question who I am. which was wrong.
I'm not questioning anything.
You said, I do not believe you are from Texas. Okay, that's what you said.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and that's what my point was.
That together with what you said, those two things together, not one by itself.
Because I have a gap in my tooth.
No,
that's
sir.
what
I'm saying that there's some suspicions. There are some suspicions there, but
I was raised in New York City. But let me.
Oh, okay, y'all. By the way, y'all, for anybody who thought Jason, you jumped to assumptions. No, I'm not. No, I'm not.
What do you mean?
You were born. He's from New York.
Yeah, I was raised in New York City.
Queens or the Bronx?
The Bronx.
There you go.
No, now let me explain.
By the way, everybody. There you go. There it is. It is.
Let's be clear. So you are the holy grail of who's black.
How did I know your people was from the Queens or the Bronx? How did I know that?
You don't know. My people are not from Queens or the Bronx.
How do we know that?
You where my people are from.
He doesn't even have a Texas. He doesn't have a Texas accent, you all. He has a New York accent.
I was raised in New York.
There you go.
Born in one place and raised somewhere else.
There you go.
Can you not?
There you go.
See, that's the problem. The problem with us as a people is we want to devise. This is a divisive.
There you go.
We want to be divisive.
Just as soon as we solidify what black is, here comes some of the people from the outside who all of a sudden want to sit up here. What we're going to do is mute the tether here for a moment. Well, whenever we firm up the definition of black, some of the outsiders who think they're going to get away with a scam, then all of a sudden, y'all are being divisive. No, we're being definitive. We're being definitive. And that's a whole big difference right there. As soon as we start talking about being definitive, then folks, y'all being divisive. We're not here to include everybody. We're here to have a specific definition so that we all have a common frame of reference so that there is no more confusion. People who start arguing for confusion and say, you can't have a specific definition. Well, he wants there to be confusion because confusion serves him. Very simple question that was asked. Is this blackness something you're born or is blackness something that you do? And then he said, well, let me argue against myself there. It's like, okay, either it's just what you're born and if you got dark skin, you black, or there is a behavioral component and that you're required to adhere to a culture for it. Very simple standard. Now, the tether can go ahead and unmute himself. By the way, there's some folks in the chat room who are very upset, so I'm going to have some of them call up here in just a moment. Some of the folks who are from outside, they're very upset. We're going to have them call in here in just a moment.
Let me be clear. I am from New York City. I was born in America, okay? I'm an African American. I am not a West Indian, okay? And when we do name calls, that's called shame, insult.
Sir, nobody's calling names. We're just speaking facts. You're getting very defensive. Sir, you're getting very defensive.
I'm asking you, what is a tether?
A person who is not from foundational background who makes arguments to undermine those of us who
That's
are.
a name calling.
Sir, you asked a question. You're going to be quiet. A person who is not from our lineage who attempts to make arguments undermining us.
Would you like
That's
to
a
share?
tether.
Okay, that's not me. That's
Sir, you already just showed
that's
it.
you deciding who I am.
Sir, you already proved it. You just told us that blackness is something that you're born. It's not something that you do. At that point right there, you have to bow out.
So there's 5 or 10 different criteria that makes you black, is what you're saying.
No, sir. There's only 3 criteria that make us black.
What are those?
Number 1, you can go to your genetic lineage. Number 2, phenotype. Number 3, identity.
What you mean finger type and identity? What are those?
Did you say finger type?
That's what you just said. I'm listening to you. I regurgitated the words that just came out of your mouth, sir. You said there's 3 criteria.
What in the hell's the matter with you?
Okay, folks, he's never heard of the word phenotype.
Phenotype.
He literally just sat here and said to all the jackasses and clowns who were in the chat room trying to defend him and roll with him. By the way, he heard phenotype. Finger type? What's a finger type?
Yeah. clarification.
What's a phenotype?
What's phenotype? Listen to you. See, this is the catch with people.
Sir,
like you.
I'm just saying.
You're insulting. That's
sir,
all
I'm
you're
not
doing.
being insulting. I'm
You
just pointing
are.
out that
What are you doing?
he
Phenotype.
heard the word phenotype and heard
tether.
phenotype.
Those are name calling.
Okay, in
That's
the
what you're
interest of
doing.
keeping things moving along here efficiently, go to Google. It's your friend, although in your case
Have
it
a
might be
good
more
day,
of a
brother. I
combat.
appreciate you.
By the
But
way,
you
are
need to
those
really
are those tracks on his arm?
Oh, let's see. Here we go with the
Okay. Yeah, boy, I'm telling you. I know we got a few tethers in the chat room who are very upset. Jason doing it wrong. Jason doing it wrong. Okay. You got to understand there's some folks here, and this is a necessary conversation to have. It's very, very necessary to have there while he's sucking on his lollipops. Well, by the way, it's a very necessary conversation to have. It will be uncomfortable for some of you because if you're trying to get us to redefine what it means, then you just go ahead and let that be known that you want to try to redefine what being black means. That the only thing it means, you was born that. Okay, so there is no culture. It's not something that you do. I mean, well, yeah, it is what you do, but it ain't, but it is. I mean, I believe it is. It might be. Either it is or it isn't. Either being black is something you're simply born and there is no behavioral, cultural activity component, or being black is what you're born, what you do, how you identify. So those are very simple things to define, except to a person who might not want to define that. That might be difficult for them. Let's go ahead and see if we can get H Primus on here. All right, H Primus, turn off your speakers, please.
Turn off what?
Okay, you got it. I'm hearing myself there, at least I was. All right, okay. H Primus, and what is on your mind?
Sorry. I'll have to call back in.
Either being black is something you're something. And they're looking forward to speaking to him.
Because I really have something to say.
Okay, well, you could just turn off your speakers and say it. Turn off YouTube. Okay, you muted yourself, ma'am. Try unmuting yourself. All you gotta do is just turn off your YouTube and you should be okay.
Okay.
Yeah, just turn YouTube off. Just close it out altogether.
Okay. All right. Let me try this.
It'll take you too long to try to find the speaker for it. So.
Okay. Okay. Can you hear me now?
All right. What is on your mind?
Okay. No, I do not think Kamala Harris is black.
Okay.
And well, first, let me identify myself. I am a foundational black. My mother is from Jacksonville, Florida, and my father's family was from Hagerstown, Maryland. I don't think that Kamala Harris is black because her father actually is not a Jamaican. He's half Irish and half Indian. He doesn't have a mother is a Hindu Indian, and she grew up in her mother's family. And if people are unaware that Hindus are almost like Aryan Nation, that those are their values. So to me, she's like the woman that was cosplaying us with the NAACP, Rachel, whatever her name is. That's how I equate Kamala Harris. She is not black. And she certainly isn't African. She certainly isn't a foundational Black American.
Well, I don't think anybody would consider her to be freedman or foundational. I don't think anyone would say that. So that's certainly not the argument. The real question is about whether or not we consider her black. And if we don't, or if we do, or if we don't, why is that? The folks who've tried to say that she is, the only thing they said is, well, she was where you're born, and that's something you're born. Do you think that there's a behavioral component?
Yes, that's the second part. And when I say that, And I brought up the Hindu and their values, which their values are totally different than ours. We're not white supremacists like they're not, we're not supremacists like they are. But let me also mention that a Black person would not put Black men who committed minor crimes that she committed, like smoking marijuana, and try to enslave them by putting them in labor camps to serve the state instead of employing people.
Okay, well, you know, I will go a little bit further than that because, I mean, if somebody's out there committing a bunch of crazy crimes and whatnot, maybe they need to be put on ice for a little while. Although there is a question that I haven't heard anybody ever ask about Kamala Harris. How many wrongfully convicted Black people has she sent to prison?
That's an excellent point. And they're the ones that are being enslaved in prison camps. And on top of that, she's also wanting to put Black single mothers into jail. Who would do that? So to me, she's not Black either heritage, blood-wise, heritage-wise, and she also isn't Black when it comes to, because her values are Hindu, and Hindus are racist. They're no different than the Aryan nation.
Okay.
She hates
what do you say about the people who say that that say that she went to an HBCU?
White people went to HBCUs, and HBCUs aren't the old school HBCUs anymore. And, you know, they're trying to erase us. To me, Kamala Harris is a way to steal our reparations. And when I say that, she wants to put us in with everyone else. That's what the point of this people of color thing is. That's nothing but a white supremacist trying to erase us. And on top of that, there was a bank, the Freedman Bank, which, are you familiar with that? The Freedman Bank? The Freedman Bank was founded 1800s or whatever to serve free Black slaves. That's why that bank was created. Just recently, she had some speech talking about Freedman Bank was for everybody. It was not for everybody.
Well, that goes along with the 20 acres and the mule that she was referring to before there. So obviously those two would go together. So I just wanted to make sure I was clear on that. Is in the modern context here, you are associating Blackness with not just genetics, but also with culture and behavior and how you comport yourself. There are some folks there that were thinking a little bit differently, but I'm glad you went ahead and weighed in on that. We appreciate that. Let me go ahead and see if I can get Santi. Let's hear it for the 3-body problem. All right, let me get Santi up here on Zoom. By the way, for everybody here on Zoom, when you end your call and everything, please go ahead and just, you can go ahead and just log out. If I need you back for something, I'll figure out a way to get a hold of you. But in the meantime there, because I don't want to have to remove you, you might not be able to ever get back in life otherwise. All right, Santi, let me go ahead and get your camera on for me here. I won't necessarily bring your picture up, but I need to make sure that we don't have a trolling issue. So just so we can make sure everything is okay and on the up and up, or if we see something different, that'll be a problem. Santi, you have 5 seconds to have some light on for me. There you go. All right, Santi, what's on your mind?
Hold on. Let me get this stuff off of here at the top here. All right. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. What's on your mind?
All right. What's going on now? I'm chilling, man. Happy to be blessed and to be alive, man. Black first. Much love to you. It's always a pleasure. Sitting back in here listening. I had a question here towards like everything else, simply because I'm on the new Black media agenda. I do this every day. I work. I'm trying to do the best I can, rather to keep up with things and continue to put out the message. I'm in Maryland. I guess.
Okay, brother, let me find out a question here. Do you consider Kamala Harris to be a Black person?
Hell no.
Okay. How do you define Black?
Black is in the essence of what our lineage is. That goes back even to the cases of the slave fields. That goes into the context of how we move, we bop, we soul, our natural rhythm, our vernacular, the way that we speak and conduct business. The last leading in defense against white supremacy is a Black to me. in simple context.
Okay, so you are not. So you defined it. Well, let me find. Do you think that what role do genetics play in that?
Genetics play in that ability of the riders and the individual that's going to scram for the bushes, all right, or try to find something else, all right, get up underneath a white supremacist pyramid, I should say. Can I get a comfortable spot for me to just deal with this other than resistance? Our gene is that leading gene of what everybody across the globe, when you've been discriminated against with your government, we are that resistance within our gene. All right. Only the Freedmans, as far as I've seen, I'm 35 years old. Right. I've only seen us have that level of resistance.
What is it that you think that Kamala Harris is lacking then to qualify?
Everything.
Everything is a lot. Can you be a bit more specific?
In the essence of what you were talking about in this program earlier, you were speaking about the circumstances of her just awkward, stiff, out of place. You don't belong. All right. It's unless I'm in power over top of you Negroes, I'm as stiff as the white supremacists. Because ideology wise, the people I choose to impress and all right, to make look good, this is where I'm riding at. That's why the crayon individual and the person that is able to camouflage or to be a chameleon is not good for Black society. Barack Obama gave us 8 years of nothing. And at the end, we're still getting violated, assaulted, and no reparations just came forth. That was the last existence of individuals like that. And Kamala Harris falls underneath the exact same banner.
Okay, what do you say to the suspected tetherish individual from New York earlier who said that our behavior is not a required component in qualifying you to be Black, although he seemed to be very, very wishy-washy on that. But to the fellow who said that, well, you're just born Black. It doesn't matter what your behavior doesn't qualify you as Black. What you do doesn't qualify you or disqualify you as Black. What is your response to him?
I would say that you're obviously a tether and you're trying to hide behind whatever you possibly can to bluff to the rest of society. We can smell the bush meat and the jollof rice and all the extras that you come to the front door with, hey, halls, and we know at this point, you can't front a little bit. All right. Just your vernacular being, we're checking everything. All right. The game has never been so tight. Thanks to you and all the rest of the new Black media here. The game has never been so militant as far as delineating and checking strange jokers sniffing at the door. You can get everything you're asking for at this point in time, and we're ready.
What do you say to the people who say that she's Black, she's been to an HBCU, and she's been with a Black sorority?
And how has that benefited Black society? How are we up? Reparations taken care of, business as far as replacing white supremacy with justice wise. How are we up at all? It means nothing except for the clergies and folks sitting around trying to get gainful employment. All right, something personally for me, but the rest of Black society fall behind. We're trying to lift the rest of us here up permanently underneath of the cases of where we do not have to worry about bootlicks and anything else like that. Black society can run our own society based on actual repair, which is reparations. And Kamala Harris supports Kamala Harris.
Very well said. Thank you very much for giving us a call tonight here. And to the folks who say, well, she went to an HBCU, I'm like, that's like saying you have a Black friend. How does going to Howard University, what does that prove? I went to Howard University. She Black, she went to Howard University. Okay, and that proves what exactly? What exactly does that prove or confirm? What exactly is the undeniable argument you make? When I've been to Howard, she went to Howard University. All right, what exactly is that supposed to prove? What exactly does that prove? What does that give us undeniable evidence of? Let's go ahead and see if we can get Richard here on Zoom. All right, Richard. And what is on your mind? I'm waiting for him to hook up his audio here. Okay, it says he can't hear me yet. Waiting for Richard to connect his audio. Give it a few moments there, Richard. I hope at least it says that it says connect. There you go. All right, Richard, turn off your speakers.
Okay, let me turn off the speaker. Okay. Yeah, it's sharing in our struggle. That's the see. She's not advocating for us. It's by her very behavior. It's just not being born in the USA. Her parentage, she comes from another. She doesn't share our experience. She's not a foundational Black American. She didn't come in. Her forebears didn't come on a slave ship. Here, she's late to the party. She's vampirizing our culture, and it's more than that. She's not advocating for us. I mean, the problem is, I don't know why we have this problem with gatekeeping. What did she put on the census form? Why do we have this? No other people get.
I'll explain it to you, brother. Here's the reason why. Because as a so-called minority for so long, Black people were conditioned, and it's a natural, logical thing to believe, well, the issue is we don't have the numbers. We're being oppressed because we were 10% of the population at that time. Now you're 14% of the population. And well, if our numbers were up, then it wouldn't be so easy to oppress us. So obviously the next natural conclusion is there's strength in numbers. Now, when that becomes your primary strategy, that there's strength in numbers, well, what are you going to try to do? You're going to try to get as many people on your side as possible, as many people, anybody and everybody who will identify as on your side, you're going to just let them right in through the front door. You're not going to do a bunch of vetting. You're not going to do a bunch of question asking because your priority is bolstering numbers. So that's how that happens.
Well, it's interesting that same dominant culture can go to another continent, be in the minority, and still feel they want to dominate and still delineate and not let and still gatekeep. So it's just not a numbers game for them. She doesn't have numbers of Indians in here. She's vampirizing our culture. But again, I believe that we have to be willing to throw some people off the boat. We got to get rid of the traders. You got to gatekeep your culture. If you don't, we're lost. And I think that's a thing. I appreciate you're doing that. FBA, we have to establish criteria for being in our group.
I think that's a very good thing you said there. At the beginning, you make a good point, and you were mentioning something I was saying there before. I want to go ahead and elaborate on that a little bit more because I don't want to lose that going forward. When you said that she hasn't shared in our struggle, that's what I meant when I was that's one of the things I meant when I was speaking to Aura at the beginning when I said that when she said we're not all the same. Actually, we are, because if you're born in America, you get put in that black box by default. The society treats you like that by default. You get no say in it. Do you know how hard you have to fight to deny your maltreatment in this society as a Black person? Do you know what a mental schism you have to fight to get in order to deny what is so obviously happening to you? You take a look at Clarence Thomas, Skip Gates. We can go down the list. All of them claiming they denied it right up until they got their ass in the crack, and all of a sudden they figured out what was going on. No, you always knew what was going on. Everyone knows what's going on. We all have the same experience. Yeah, we are all the same until you tell me you're not, in which case now you get voted off the island. I'll let you have the last word.
When you're on the come up, you need to bring somebody up with you. It can't all be about you. You have to have some concern for your people. Really, technically, Marcus Garvey was a tether, but he was for us. So he was accepted. He still got sent back to Jamaica. But I'm saying you got to advocate for us. There's no way you're not, no way you're Black. She's advocating for it, and she lets you know. She'll flip the script. She advocated for an Asian hate crime bill. That's who her people are.
Well, in order to be a tether, you have to be somebody who's trying to undermine us. Marcus Garvey was not trying to do that. So it's not a matter of you not being FBA. Not being FBA does not make you a tether. If you are not one of us and you undermine us, you're a foreign tether. If you come from the soil we do and you're undermining us, you're a domestic tether, or as I like to call it, a domestic tetherist. Thank you very much for giving us a call tonight. We appreciate that. So yes, you may be a foreign-born tether. Then again, you might be a domestic tetherist. That can happen as well. All right, let me go ahead and see if I can get Esteban here on Zoom. Let's go ahead and get Esteban up. All right, Esteban, you are here on Zoom. What's on your mind?
Can you hear me, brother?
Yes, sir.
I'm kind of confused. Been hearing some conflicting things, and I wanted to ask you. Well, let me first answer your question of the night. Do you think Kamala Harris is black? No, I do not. She's not black genetically slash racially slash ethnicity wise, and I do think that primarily makes one black, primarily. But the question I wanted to ask, because you've said several times with some of the previous callers that it's also culture, you know, how you move, soul, your language, and all of that. And so what I wanted to ask you, I have two questions for you. Are you saying that if that makes one black, is that saying, or do you believe that we as black people are a monolith?
Well, certainly you can't have a common identity and common culture without a monolithic element to it. So there will be an element to it. Now,
Okay.
now the thing is, I don't want folks to get simple-minded. People get simple-minded. There are no absolutes except death, but certainly there is a monolithic, and by that I mean a common element. Absolutely. Otherwise, you don't have a culture. You don't have a people. You can't categorize something if they're all different. So, yeah, there's going to be an element to that. Yeah.
Okay. And my second question is, and there's certainly a bunch of stats to prove it. If a black person is not a criminal or doesn't speak or doesn't act a certain way that most of those statistics point to, does that mean that that person's not black?
Okay, here's the issue. I'm so glad you asked that, because this is why it goes beyond the quote, a rigid physical definition of life. That I was born a certain skin color with a certain phenotype, not finger type, with a certain phenotype, and that's what qualifies as blackness. No, it also goes down to behaviors and practices, because racism is in the behaviors and the practices. It's in the habits and the behaviors of a society. Therefore, among our people, your identity is also going to come from your behaviors as well. So when you talk about criminality, to be born black in this society, you're already guilty and already criminalized. Whether you are whether you are in jail, or as Brother Neely Fuller calls it, greater confinement, or whether you walk the streets under these social controls, you are a criminal in this society merely by virtue of being born. And if you don't believe me, go get any random white woman to say he done it. They will come and grab you and will not even ask her what you did. They will simply grab you first and then ask her, okay, now they're going to ask her what they're going to charge you with. And that is common. Any of you who have children in the school system, and those of us who grew up in it, you experienced it firsthand. So you are that criminal experience. It doesn't require you going to a court of law. When you're born in this society, welcome to the criminal experience.
I have a confession to make. Brother, you just checkmated me, because I thought I had you on one. And so I cannot argue with that logic. I cannot.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Some of the simple-minded folks there earlier, they got upset. They're like, ooh, Jason is sitting up gaslighting folk. No, mathematics is not gaslighting. It's a simple logical thing. If you can disprove one, you can disprove the other. By definition, please remember, I've interviewed Richard Spencer. I've interviewed Jared Taylor. These men, they don't ever say that whiteness is what you're born. Let me be clear. The people who defined what all this means, I've spoken to them. I'm one of the few people you all can verify. Yeah, Jason's actually spoken to them. Yeah, they will tell you whiteness is not something you're just born. You aren't just born white. You come over here on our side, all of a sudden you can be just born black. And I'm like, okay, you might want to ask these other folks what the qualifications are.
Well, to your point, there are plenty of Jews here in America that are very secular and they don't speak Hebrews. I don't know if the Jews in Israel would say they're not Jewish.
Well, I mean, you have secular Jews, and then you have, traditional Jews, Hasidic Jews, fundamentalist Jews. So the secular ones actually outnumber everybody, in all honesty.
Yes, that is true.
The people
That's
most likely to date and marry outside of their race are, in fact, Jewish people, actually. So there's been a big scramble in a lot of regards to escape from that rigid classification of it. But I will tell you one thing, when it comes to getting on code, there's not a whole lot of fighting and questioning of it. Go find the most secular Jewish person you can. When it's time to get on code, they're going to be lockstep with it. I don't care if they're married to the whitest of white people. They're going to be on code when that happens.
That is also facts. I cannot argue that. And lastly, so with respect to Kamala Harris, being that she went to an HBCU, does that not feel contradictory when because she was around quote unquote Black culture, soul, this, that? I mean, she was immersed in that at least for a few years of her life. Using your logic, is it not contradictory? I'm asking.
Well, okay, Rachel Dolezal went to an HBCU. Candace Owens, I think, did. So the thing is, what I'm saying is, taking somebody and parachuting them in at the age of 18 or 19 years old, brother, as you know, like I said, you pretty much inform what you're going to be as a person by the time you're 10 or 12 years old. Everything else is going to be fine tuning. So we parachuted her into Howard University at 18 or 19 years old. Are you enhancing her Black identity, or did she just suddenly discover it at 18 or 19 years old? How much weight are you going to put on dropping somebody into a school at 18 or 19 years old? Furthermore, I would challenge anybody to show me that Howard University teaches Blackness. Damn!
Well, good point. And by the way, and you feel free to disagree with me, but I say we as Black people owe Rachel Dolezal an apology. She has proven to be more Black than Kamala Harris ever has. She's actually done things for Black people. Now, you can think she's crazy for how she went about it, but honestly, all things being equal, Jason, honestly, we owe Rachel Dolezal an apology. At least I think.
No. But I do get your point in that regard there. Thank you very much for giving us a call. No, we don't owe Rachel Dolezal an apology. We don't owe her properly cooked meal. No, and none of the above there. So don't get carried away. All right, let's go ahead and see if we can get Terrence here on Zoom. Let me go ahead and get Terrence up here on Zoom. All right, Terrence. Wait for him to turn his microphone and stuff on there. It takes him a few moments for those to get started. Once that gets done, we'll have him on. So we're giving Terrence just a moment for Zoom to finish. All right, there he goes there. All right, Terrence, you are on. What's on your mind?
Hey, what's going on there, Jason? Why do you think, like, as of recent, like, the people, you know, like the Democratic shields and like the tethers, why do you think as of recent, like, because when I have Facebook conversations or Instagram conversations, now it's like they're coming out the woodwork, you know, because of the election and, you know, being in a couple of months, things of that nature. But like, why do you think it is that they have such a problem with the delineation thing?
Because everybody has been able to get unearned benefits off of our previous 200, 300 years of effort, labor, sweat, toil, suffering. And a bunch of folks have been able to be let in the door to gain all the benefits with none of the sacrificing. So we have, in effect, become a come up to a bunch of people. And what we're saying, the folks who are just a come up, they don't have allegiance to anything. Here's the issue with the tether class. The problem with the fleeing thing is if you fled, we didn't flee. That's why you have someplace great to come to, because we stood 10 toes down. We didn't get up and head for the borders and say, well, let me go find some place where they're not doing stuff. We bled, we fought, we died, we stood. Folks who run, now they're coming to the people who never ran, but you're bringing your running spirit with you and your running culture with you. So then we become a come up. And then as soon as you've come up, then you start undermining us. The very people who gave you a place, a safe haven to be in, then you start showing why it is you had to run in the first place. You start undermining us, even though you did nothing to prepare this place you're in. Something so treacherous cannot be allowed to stay. Otherwise, they're going to be the end of all of us too.
Yeah, it's kind of it's strange when you really think about it, because it's almost like it's like now it's like they're whispering Like they know.
Oh,
they know.
They're not whispering anymore, brother. They're talking openly about it because they realize it's like, yeah, you're not going to get any traction if we don't go along with it. Which is up until this point what's been happening. The civil rights generation, as I was explaining to Boost there before, the civil rights generation had this idea that we needed to bolster our numbers. And up until the 1960s, you know, when it was hard to be black and get into America, the Marcus Garveys and folk that you could be deported at any time, it was hard to get over here. So you had to be a rider to get over here. You couldn't just be anybody. As soon as they gave us civil rights, what's the first thing that they did? They started passing immigration laws. And then now we're finding out who it was they were allowing to come over in such huge numbers. Before the 1960s, they were keeping everybody out. As soon as the 1960s hit, we got civil rights, then they made a new immigration law. Now we see who they've been letting in. Hello, Kamala. A bunch of folk who sit up here and smile in our faces, and then you go see how they live. And then you go check in the paperwork and you find all kinds of greasy anti-black statements made by them, specifically against the Freedmen foundational culture. So that happens there. But let me go ahead and ask you the question we've been asking you this evening. Do you consider Kamala Harris to be black? If so, why? And if not, why not?
Oh, absolutely not. I think the why not would be that she's not, you know, from the soil. She's not foundational like us. She's not black first like us. She didn't come from the struggle that, you know, us and our ancestors have gone through and experienced. So no, absolutely not.
Well, let me find out a question here. You said she's not foundational. I want to go ahead and deal with this here right quick. Do you believe that you have to be foundational to classify as black?
I do.
Okay, so you would not consider Julius Malema to be black?
I don't even know who that is.
Yikes. Okay. I would definitely refer everybody there to reconsider on those things right there, because we got riders. The real thing is we need to define this. You may not be foundational. You can qualify, but they can't, just because they're not foundational, I don't think that's going to disqualify them. Because you got folk like Julius Malema and others, they weren't born here with us, but they are on code. In my mind, the only thing that would disqualify is people who are not on code. That goes to that identity portion of it. There's the cultural part of it. It would be one thing if they were just neutral and weird. That would be different. Kamala Harris's life has not been neutral. That's the problem. Kamala Harris has lived as a specific something. It's just not black. But she has made a life as a specific something. She sure has. I'll let you have the last word.
Yeah, man. You know, stay on code. I appreciate you going over that. Like, you know, I understand where you're coming from when you say that. Now, as long as you're on code, and you know, yeah, you're black. But I was saying that from Kamala Harris's perspective, like, I don't feel like she is because she's not from here and she ain't on code.
Well, that's why I want to take a moment to clarify those things for anybody who might have some confusion. For example, take a look at Julius Malema's attitude toward blackness, as well as his attitude toward white supremacy. You could line it up against us and it's damn near identical. You can line it up next to us and it's damn near identical, even though he wasn't born in America. So what I'm saying is that shows you this is a behavior, and running from it is a choice. So we wouldn't have the issues we have today if you had more folk like him in that regard. That's not something he got to be taught, browbeat into, pressured into, talked to, lectured about. It doesn't have to do that. He's ready to take the blows. He's ready to take the arrows. He's ready to take the persecution, and he has, mostly from other black folk where he is, by the way. The same folk who give us problems are the same black folk in Africa giving us problems, are the same ones over there giving him problems, by the way. So when you think of it in that regard there, there's the point I want folks to not get confused about. Foundational means something. Freedman means something. Black means something. But its context must be taken as understanding what on code is. Tethers are off code, either foreign born or domestic. Foreign born tetherists or domestic tetherists whichever one. That's where it comes to in that regard. So in Kamala Harris's case, the induction of her being black, that's the thing I'm taking an issue with there. Do you think that her going to an HBCU enhances her black credentials?
Absolutely not.
Why not?
I mean, I don't feel like, you go into an HBCU enhances, like, just because it's a historically black college, like you got a lot of people who went to a historically black college that are black people who are foundational, who are not on code. You know what I mean? Like, then you have, other races that go to, other ethnicities that go to historically black colleges. And like, just that alone, as far as the foundationals who go to historically black colleges and become a part of like the Boule and, the sororities and fraternities and things of that nature. It's crazy, Jason, you brought that up because like it's gotten so serious. Like I went to DC for the reparations rally. Shout out to Tariq. And I was up in DC. And my brother, like, he's this staunch, like, Democrat. And my brother, like, he's my older brother, so, it's a 5-year age difference. But we were talking about, like, voting and not voting, and, he was using all the, like, the
short version, brother.
Points.
Short version. We're short on time, so short version.
Well, yeah, basically, we ended up getting into it. We tussled, I think that's how serious it's getting. Like, hey, man, this is like serious business.
Well, I certainly want people to make sure that they define these things clearly because confusion weakens people. You cannot have a strong cohesive unit if you're confused. You can't have a strong football team if the players are all confused about who they are, if you don't even know what team you're on. You got the Broncos playing Green Bay and you're confused about what team you're on. Tell me how the hell you're going to win. So confusion and effectiveness cannot coexist. I can defeat somebody and confuse them, but confusing people helps somebody to lose. It doesn't help them to win. Thank you very much for giving us a call. Now we appreciate that. Let me see if I can get Carlos here on Zoom. Let me go ahead and see if we can bring Carlos up here. Let me go ahead and see if we can bring Carlos up. All right, we got Carlos here on Zoom. Go ahead and unmute yourself, Carlos.
How's it going, Brother Tariq? How you doing, brother?
Did he just call me Brother Tariq?
I'm sorry. But let me go ahead and I got a question for you. I'm gonna go ahead and answer the what you was talking about. Kamala Harris is not black. African Jamaicans and Haitians are not considered black. The term black is identified as an American, what the Europeans gave to us. Even the ones that come over here that have our best interests, they're still not considered black because they haven't experienced the experiments that they done on our people that runs through our veins, far as Tuskegee experiment, from the government cheese, from the jerry killers that passed down. We used to have perfect afros. And they passed that down and messed up our hair and all that stuff. They don't experience that. Kamala she only consider herself black because it's convenient for it's time to vote for the Democratic Party. She's not black. And my question is to you, brother. This is a question. If I lost my train of thought, but the question is, when her secretary, Kamala Harris secretary, was asked, what does it mean to be considered as black? And she said, well, anybody can identify as black if they want to. Do you think that would be a problem for people like us, FBAs, getting reparations?
Absolutely. And that's the reason why we need to drag this conversation out from behind the couch, out from out of the shadows, out from up under the bushes, and out into the light so that we can get this whole damn thing cleared up once and for all. That you are not going to come along 200 years later and destroy the definition because the people who talk like that are doing it for their own self-serving reasons. They're not doing it to serve the group. They're trying to redefine it to serve themselves. This is why we must put our foot down and say, no, you will not do this. Yes, we're going to create an awkward moment. This checking you going to feel real awkward for a minute, and that's exactly why we going to go ahead and do it. So yes, we're going to drag this out in the street. We're going to have this damn brawl and clear this up.
Okay, I got another question for you. You said we're gonna go out the 18th century. How you said we're gonna do it? What year was that? You said we're gonna go off of?
Well, 18. Some people say 1890. Some people say 1870. I much prefer if I had my druthers, it'd be 1860. But I will certainly. I'm most comfortable with 1870. I don't really want to stretch it to 1890. But
okay, regardless what year it is, here's the problem though. There's the problem, and I respect your work, but also I respect Dr. Umar, but he did make God thing something that we have to put in consideration. Like far as in my heart, I'm just gonna keep it real. I came from a black mother and a black father. I'm just gonna keep it real. And if you consider mixed people as black and they got curly hair and they don't have our features, and I love my people, but let's just keep it front. It's going to still go out. It's going to be in the same coincidence as who is the tribe of Judah. So much confusion because Dr. Umar made sense. Like if you look at all the black celebrities and when they die and they marry somebody that's European, that Europeans take that money. So if I'm just keeping it real, man. If mixed people with curly hair, and we know that curly hair came from the East, you can look it up. The origin of straight hair and curly hair all come from the East. All nappy-haired people or the people like us, we come.
Okay, brother. Let me find out here. In the interest of efficiency, here, did you have a question?
That is the question. Like the question is, like, do you consider half breeds because there's a problem there.
Okay, let's go ahead and deal with a couple of things here. You said a few things during the phone call, and this is one of those phone calls that's actually rather useful in this context when we can go ahead and get all this stated concisely in one neat little package here. First of all, let's deal with that black thing. A lot of people like to quibble over semantics. The bottom line is we are subjected to it no matter, folks want to inject their feelings as opposed to facts. You and I did not choose for Europeans to conquer the world 500 years ago. We didn't have a choice. We didn't have a say. We didn't ask them to. We didn't request it. They went out there and did it, and you and I are subject to the consequences of it. As Dr. John Henry Clark said, we are a people born of a condition of history. We didn't have a say in it, but we got to deal with it. This is the world you're in. Whether you like it, whether you don't, you probably don't like it, but you got to accept that that's the reality. You did not define the word blackness. Absolutely you didn't. Well, them folk over there did. Brother, do you realize how many things that you run into in your life that you had no say in? And yet there you are. So I don't really get wrapped up in that part of it there, except to the extent that it serves me. And the distinction of it does serve me because it tells me, okay, who's on my side, who means me well, and who doesn't. It's just one factor that helps in that equation. The fact that it was made up by other people or determined by other people is simply, that's their way of saying, hey, we conquered the world and you ain't one of us. Okay, good thing we got this up to speed real quickly. Now that you have helped clarify that, now I know how I need to respond to you. Now that you made it clear that you done conquer the world and you see my dark skin and my phenotype as a negative that you can oppress and mistreat. Now that we done got that settled and it's very clear, now I know how I need to deal with you. Now I can start formulating strategies and methods to deal with that because I'm not going to accept being mistreated. There's where the problem is. If I just accepted it, your racism would be okay. But I don't. So we gonna have problems. From there, the best strategy is, okay, who else is with me? Because I'm just one person. Now you start getting that together. Now you start getting a culture. Now you have an understanding when you start, and you from there you can reverse engineer and go backwards. Well, why do they hate us? And then you start seeing commonalities and those things get put together. So that's why that doesn't bother me. Because ultimately there's a whole bunch of things in your life you didn't choose. I don't quibble over that. This is something I got to deal with. I don't worry about what people say. I worry about what they do. All right. Now let's talk about the mixed kids. Here's where ideology meets mathematics. Number one, you might not want to say who black is, but you don't get to say who white is. And they're the ones who make the rules. We call it white supremacy because as uncomfortable as it is for people to accept, yeah, they run things. They sure do. Anytime they want to walk up to you and deny you your human rights, usually they got the advantage in that regard. Denial of reality doesn't change it. You can't defeat white supremacy until you accept that white supremacy is real and it exists. Now that you've accepted that, now you can start formulating strategies to defeat it. But you can't defeat something that doesn't exist. So any idiot who tells you it doesn't exist, well, then he's obviously not fighting it because you can't fight something that isn't there. Either it's there or it isn't. It's there. You got to deal with that. They're the ones who decided, they didn't define who black was. They simply made all these other terms to define this is not white. You ain't white. You're other than white. You're Italian. You're Greek. You're Negro. You're Mongoloid. They just went to that. Made a methodology of doing that so that they could determine who would get all the choice cuts, who would get all the best benefits, and who would be denied them. That's what the system of white supremacy is based on. Who gets the benefits and who gets the liabilities. And we will operate as a team to ensure that that system of unearned benefits perpetuates itself. Now, where do the mixed kids come into this? Well, the mixed kids are, nobody chooses how they're born. And the mixed kids certainly don't get to choose that. So they kind of end up in this weird little limbo here. The question becomes from them, okay, just like the rest of us, you didn't get to choose how you were born. What you gonna do with it? Some of them take a look at the system of white supremacy and realize I don't qualify as white. Doesn't matter what I feel or what I think or what I wish. I can't be white. And then they deal with it from there. Then you have the others who say, well, let me see if I can be a two-face for the rest of my days. Let me try to take advantage of it. Now, the issue with disqualifying them is mathematical. Now, I said all that to get to this point. The issue with disqualifying them is mathematical, not ideological. How do you determine how much of a person is or isn't black? A specific percentage? You can't do that. There's no way to measure that. You right now standing in front of me, you can't, sir, but you can't give me a numerical value. You cannot qualify whether you are 52%, 55%, 57%. You can't qualify that.
I mean, go off statistics, though.
Sir, you cannot show me any empirical evidence that measures your quote unquote blackness percentage, even genetically. You can't do that.
I mean, kind of like.
Okay, sir.
It's kind of embarrassing, but to say it, but let's put it like this. Dave Chappelle had a goddamn episode about why do black people like certain stuff, right? Some of that stuff.
Okay, but like, sir, the bottom line is you can measure how much money you got in your bank account. You can measure how tall your house is. You can measure the percentage of gold that you have in the metal. You can't measure your specific numerical amount of blackness, sir. You can't measure it. So what I'm saying is that when you embark to try to disqualify someone else, please understand you don't even have an actual empirical objective metric. Okay. You don't have one.
I do. I'm saying that. Then so let me ask you a question. So far as I'm gonna ask you two questions.
Well, I'm the thing is I don't want to go on too long here, but I'm answering the question that you asked before about what do we do with the mixed kids? What do you do with the half-breed kids? What do you do with the octoroons? And what I'm saying is they're never going to be black. I mean, they're never going to be white. So that's off the table for them altogether. Historic. Okay, slow down. I'm explaining. They can't. Here's the facts. They can't be white because white society will never accept them as white. They can't force the issue of being white because that's not something legal. It's ideological and social. So that door is just closed. They also cannot force being black, but you live in a society that says they're black by default of being non-white. From there, we have to do something that we have not been doing over the course of the last 100, 200, 300 years, which is to say, yeah, you don't automatically get a black card either. Now, that is new. You don't automatically get one. What they can do is they can identify.
Applications give you options, man, to say you mix. Because when I grew up to school, people used to say they mix, and then all this stuff starting to happen. Everybody claiming they're black now.
Okay, but sir, my point is
that came from two black parents.
Okay, but sir, you say I think it's unfair. I mean, life is unfair. You don't have an objective, but you don't have an objective metric, sir, to be able to start from day one. So there are
applications. They give you an option of what you are.
Yeah, but you don't have an object. Yeah, but I'm saying is that you don't have not the white supremacists. You don't have an objective metric that you can measure somebody with. Okay, sir, calm down. You don't have an objective metric with which you can measure from day one. You're going to have to come along that later and deal with them on a case-by-case basis, but you do not have an objective mathematical metric that you can use from day one. You don't have one. There isn't one. You can't make one because it doesn't exist. So what you will have to do for the ones who are in between, they're going to have to prove themselves.
I understand.
Even if they are some who are just slightly off of us, it's like, okay, you got to prove yourself. That's why with Halle Berry, I never gave her a black card. She gonna have to prove herself. And she did. We saw exactly what she did. And if she told herself that you can't pull my black card at 40, watch me. Watch me. And that's exactly what the hell happened, which is why she's the weird little mulatto kid today. And that is something that simply did not happen 40 years ago or 50 years ago with Lena Horne or the rest of them. That didn't happen back then. It does now. So that is how we deal with the biracial and multiracial kids. It's like, by the way, you don't get a card, you get a slip, and I suggest you hold on to it for dear life, because what you will not be allowed to do is hop from one side of the fence and be black when convenient. You gonna pick a side. If you do not firmly pick this side, and in your case, you're gonna have to lean heavy on identity because the genetics and the phenotype ain't really on your side. You're gonna have to lean heavy on identity. You'll get a day pass, but you better hold on to it for dear life. You will not play this game y'all usually do, where you black when convenient and you hop from one side of the damn fence to the other when it serves you. No, you won't. The old rules, they upheld that. Welcome to the new rules. Thank you very much for giving us a call tonight. Going forward here, it's like, okay, there's no mathematical equation that we use. It's like, okay, obviously there's something here ain't right. Okay, here's your slip. Here's your slip. You better hold on to it for dear life. Here's your slip. You're not going to bounce back and forth. You better identify with the team. You're going to choose a team. You better hold strong with the team. And if you decide that this team ain't worth backing and you can't stay 10 toes down, we ain't going to fight to claim your ass. That's them old niggas who did that. We voting niggas off the island daily. The old niggas fought to keep folk who didn't really want to rock with us. You don't want to rock with us? We're doing you a privilege by giving you a side to be on so you ain't out there ass naked all the damn time by yourself. We doing you a favor. You ain't doing us no damn favor standing by us in no damn fraternity looking like no damn oddball. We doing you the favor, and we can rescind that favor at any moment we want to. So don't fool yourself with the crack pipe into thinking you got a lifelong pass. We can pull your damn card anytime we want to. And the fact that historically we didn't has nothing to do with the fact we bout to. Somebody in the chat room saying it's Sage Steele, Stacey Dash, Halle Berry, Clarence Thomas, Skip Gates. We can go down the list. You can get your card pulled at any moment. Do not deceive yourself into thinking that you got a lifetime pass. Those days are over, dead and gone and through. And if we ever run up on you and say paperwork check, hey, you got some funny business going on here. If we ever run up on you, just understand for the rest of your life, we can run up on you anytime, any place, anywhere, any day, and do a paperwork check. That's the way it will be from here on in. If you get your slip, just understand for the rest of your life, we get to pull a paperwork check. And if the paperwork looks shady or dirty at any time, we can yank that card. And that's real talk. Let me go ahead and see if I can get Peter here on Zoom. All right, we got Peter here on Zoom. Why is he looking like Cameo? All right, Peter, let's go ahead and get your audio going there. What's on your mind? Peter's sitting on the floor. He's sitting on the floor all sultry, y'all, like Teddy Pendergrass.
Hold on real quick.
he looking like a Teddy Pendergrass album cover here on the floor, y'all. So I'm not going to put him on the screen, but yeah, brother, you looking like you getting your R&B album cover ready, so.
My.
Oh, damn, I start that.
Look, man, being black is one part genetics, one part how you act. I believe that fully.
Okay, and well, where does Kamala Harris fall? Where does Kamala Harris fall in your mind?
Well, I have a series of rhetorical questions here. If I have a desire to climb Mount Everest, is that black? If I allow the dog to kiss me in my mouth, is that black? If I allow for my cats to roam around the kitchen counter, is that black? And if I make collard greens in a bathtub, come on now, that's crazy.
Well, definitely, like I say, things that at first blush to us, to our ears, don't sound right. Just intrinsically, you know when the energy is off, when the energy is wrong, when it's not matching up. Intrinsically, you know that. And that's that is one of the factors that we use.
Yeah.
It's not the only one, but it's one of them.
And the whole collard greens in the bathtub, man, that's just one example of her chipping away at this black facade that she has. You know, and the fact that the media is using the HBCU as some sort of proof that she's black is just crazy.
That's grasping at straws. That's groping for. You realize how desperate you have to be. That just because you go through the drive-thru at McDonald's does not make you an employee. Just because you can walk into a Starbucks does not make you a barista.
And if I go to UCLA, that doesn't make me a doctor.
If you work at UCLA, that doesn't make you a doctor.
And if I go to Harvard, that doesn't make me a genius. So I don't understand why they're using the HBCU angle. And by the way, they're insulting our intelligence with this HBCU angle, because we all know that HBCUs aren't fully black. They're funding, and there's a couple of HBCUs where the majority population, the overwhelming majority population, is white.
Well, you know, I would go further than that, brother, because Dr. John Henry Clark talked to us about that decades ago when he said you didn't have any HBCUs that taught a single African language. I argue, and I've been saying this for the longest time, and I will reiterate this here again tonight. Somebody show me where your HBCUs are actually promoters of blackness. I would challenge anybody who says that going to an HBCU enhances your black credentials. Cool. Show me where the HBCUs enhance or even promote blackness, other than when it's politically convenient for them.
Exactly. And just like the other caller said, and just like you just said now, you know, they have the whole Boulay thing, they have Jack and Jill, and those groups do not promote blackness and what we really are and the culture. So that whole angle is just problematic on so many fronts. You know, there's certain things that we do as black people that unites us, and she's breaking all the codes. She's breaking all the uniting factors. She broke it in California as DA. You know, the other caller, she partially got it wrong. She said locking up single black mothers. No, it was trying to lock up a homeless single black mother for one of her children being truant. You know, so it just, when you look at what she does, you know, she's not black at all. She's not sympathetic to our struggle, you know.
Well, I mean, it's beyond just that, though. I mean, sympathetic to the struggle, I mean, anybody could be that. The thing is, if you're going to say that you speak on our behalf and you keep claiming that, why does the collard green story, why is that a problem? It's the same problem for the freedom thing. You don't sound like, we don't know anybody who got a story like that. I'm from Shreveport, Louisiana. We didn't live through that. My family's been through that. We don't have any stories like that. And we live that. We lived it and don't have stories like that. The collard greens thing. The problem is, baby, now you stacking it on top of something else. Every time we ask you about something black related, you keep coming up with something that sounds like some cornball anecdote that you heard from somebody else. Like you heard half a story, half the details from somebody else, and now you're trying to repeat it to me now. And it's like, okay, that doesn't sound right. That sounds like something you heard from somebody else, and you're missing pieces of the story and trying to pass this off as that's your life.
Let me tell you something, Jason. I grew up in a big family. I got a lot of brothers and sisters, a lot of cousins, because my dad had 13 brothers and sisters. We had all sorts of gatherings throughout the year, not just on the holidays, not just Easter, Thanksgiving, Christmas, more than just that. And we would have collard greens all the time, all the soul food fixins. And I've never, ever, I'm almost 40 years old. I've never seen anyone put collard greens in a tub to clean them, not even chitlins, nothing like that. We'll get like a Rubbermaid tub, but not an actual bathtub. That's crazy.
And that's what I'm saying is it sounds like you heard it from somebody else, or you heard a story and you misinterpreted it. Now you're trying to extemporaneously repeat this story, ad-libbing it as if it's your life, and you're messing up the details. So you sound like a white woman from Oregon trying to tell us what it was like to live in Louisiana, and you're messing the damn story up. Now, it would be, and now let me say again, this would be different if that were the only one. Kamala Harris can't tell us about her black boyfriends growing up. She can't tell us about the black sock hop. She can't tell us about the black after-school studies. She can't tell us about how much she loved watching the Cosby Show. She can't tell us about good times. The things that we talk about from our childhood, from our youth, that all of us from that era should have the same frame of reference. She's got none of them. So the collard green story by itself is just a little odd to hear. The freedom, no other anecdotes there. We were celebrating Kwanzaa. You mean while you had the Hindu dot on your head and while you're hanging out with Jewish Doug? And that's a whole lot going on in that house, don't you think?
Yeah.
It just starts to sound weird. It's like, wait a minute. I'm not saying that all of this is false, but all of this can't be true. It just can't be. There are too many things that are conflicting.
She should have more genuine stories of blackness, because she spent a lot of time in the Bay Area. She spent a lot of time in Oakland, which is the birthplace of the Black Panther Party. I lived in Oakland for about a year, and I understand the Black culture there, and the fact that she doesn't have real grassroots stories about the Bay Area is just crazy to me. So it's not just one thing, it's a bunch of different things. Not one straw broke the camel's back. It's just
But she didn't know that was going to happen. Remember, I want you all to think of something. I want to put a picture up on your screen for you all here to see, because this is very, very important. There's a reason why I want you to take a look at this young woman here on your screen. This is that younger picture of Kamala Harris. This is the female who was not claiming black. This is Kamala Davey. This is the one there, and I want you to remember this, because this female, take a look at her face. She's trying to figure out what the next 30 years of her life will be.
Yeah.
And how to get there. So she's lived as this Asian Indian female, but now she's thinking, you know what? I want to be a lawyer and I want to go into politics. Remember, people, nobody just wakes up on a random Tuesday and decides to run for president. Barack Obama, Bill Clinton, everybody, if you want to be president, that's something you have to make a decision about in grade school. Kamala Harris did not decide she wants to run for the Senate and president 5 years ago. That's a decision you made 30 years ago. And the person you see on your screen right now, that's the female who made that calculus. What do I got to do to be a U.S. senator? I can't keep claiming this Asian thing anymore because that ain't gonna fly. I don't have enough support. I need some black credentials because they're the only non-white group that got anything rolling. And I just so happen to be kind of able to claim that. I better start getting some black credentials. Well, I'll be damned. What's the next thing she does? Let me go join a sorority. Let me go to an HBCU, something radically different from everything she had been doing and living up until that point. And by the way, y'all, Barack Obama, same thing. When they finally did decide they wanted to run for office, I got to get some black credentials. Obama had an advantage that Kamala did not have, which is we were not looking at him quite so closely. In her case, we said, yeah, we learned from Obama. Let's check all the paperwork. So when she goes to college, That's when she starts saying, I need some black credentials. When she starts to run for office, she says, I don't think I can get elected running as black. Let me run as whatever I think is least threatening. Oh, I'm Asian. And that was what she first started promoting herself as when she first went into politics. So that's when she started the thing of I'm black when convenient. It was only when she started having national aspirations, and that was when she became attorney general in California. She was like, I got district attorney in California. That's when she started saying, I got statewide and now national aspirations. And you see the natural evolution. So going to Howard was a technique to use so that she can say, okay, let me check this box, because other than Howard, I ain't got no black credentials. And what do you know? Everyone who tries to defend her, when you ask about her black credentials, they can only say Howard. They cannot show you her friends, boyfriends, associates, television shows, anybody she dressed as. They can't show you any of that.
No.
That was a calculated decision. I'll let you have the last word.
Well, I like to say that another move that she made that wasn't so black was having Meg the Stallion come out. That's not black. Black people, we don't rock with that.
Not as a political statement.
Exactly. You're supposed to be running for the most powerful position in the world, apparently, and there's supposed to be some sort of decorum, some sort of sophistication about yourself. I mean, if you like hip hop, that's cool, but you're in Atlanta. Atlanta is, there might be.
No. Let's go beyond that. It's not just Atlanta. It's not just hip hop. Think of Beyonce. Yeah, Beyonce bootylicious, even though you gotta get some implants. But Beyonce bootylicious, okay, that's great for entertaining. But when it's time for Beyonce,
you think she got implants,
brother, it better be. Anyway, what I'm saying, we ain't gonna open that can of worms. But when Beyonce shows up at the Grammys or anything else, ain't no bootylicious going on. And you take a look at everybody else. What I'm saying is that, the entertainment thing's supposed to stop if we're in front of an audience that's not appropriate for. When you go to one of her concerts, bootylicious. Okay, got it. This is not the bootylicious time. You're having a political rally in Atlanta. This is not bootylicious, twerking, nasty, bougie, ratchet time. This isn't the time, unless you're a person who sees black people as a caricature.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why I say that wasn't a black move on her part. And being in Atlanta, there's a lot of Atlanta rappers that are more serious than that. Killer Mike is from Atlanta. You could have had him come up there.
No, you can't
support Kamala.
You cannot. You can't have Killer Mike up there because he's likely to say something a little off code for you and introduce questions you don't want. Meg the Stallion, like I say, album sales are not what they want. She needed that appearance much more than Kamala did, truth be told. And Quavo just needed to stay home. Thank you very much for giving us a call tonight. For those of you who didn't see my program last night, Kamala Harris and Ho Politics, you can go check that out for all the details. But yeah, folks, when it's time for a political rally, this idea that black people are in constant, bass hit mode and bass drum mode and trap music mode, that's a caricature. You're a person who only gets your information about black people from watching YouTube shorts. That's a damn caricature. That's not how we live. And for you to project it like that, that's not a calculus a black person would actually make. Certainly not foundational. That's a caricature based on something you saw on television. Well, that means that what you're showing is you don't really interact with us. Otherwise, you would know, we don't do that. Why would you even think that was okay? Because you don't actually interact with us. Let me go ahead and see if I can get Dan up here on Zoom. See if we can get Dan together here on Zoom. Dan's might take a minute here. He's on that Zimbabwe broadband. So let's see if we can get another one. All right, Dan on Zoom, go ahead and unmute yourself. Wrong button, Dan.
You get me?
Right button, Dan. All right, what's on your mind?
Oh, not much, man. I'm going to get straight to the point with it. No, she's not black. She's black when convenient. We all know, we see the con game for what it is, and most black folks ain't fall for that shit, if I can say it like that. So, and what makes her not, I'm going to answer this question too, because I know you're going to ask me. What makes her not qualify as black? Number one, she never identified herself as the culture. She's not raised around the culture. Hell, she's not even raised part of our lineage. And I seriously don't believe she's been around other black people. You know what I'm saying? I could tell because by me in the city that I'm in, like you look on the north side, a lot of people like Kamala Harris, a lot of them is up north. So a lot of them, they had that same mindset as Kamala too. And then on top of that, she has a vitriol against black people. So I would like to say it like that.
Well, definitely, I think you make a very good point. Donald Trump can tell you about 5 or 6 white men that he's talked to this week. He's got white friends, white men who've known him for years and decades, who you can get on TV right now. Kamala Harris literally cannot do that. She can get dug up there. She can get dug, but she can't get any black folk with any credentials, or it'll be some black person she met in the last year. It won't be anybody she's known for 10, 20 years who she can say, oh yeah, I've talked to them this week.
Now, I know you're going to ask this other question too. I'm going to beat you to the punch to it. I know you're going to ask me what's my comment about her going to a HBCU. That shit don't mean a damn thing. And can I say something right now? Now, I've never been to college. I don't even have a high school diploma. But every black person I know who's under the age of 55 who went to an HBCU, most of them are Sambos, bed bucks, religious hoes. We cannot forget about the black Christianity, a lot of those religious hoes. You know, they turn religion once, you know, they can't compete no more. The ones that do not see no color, don't believe racism exists, your Candace Owens type. She went to HBCU too. And most of them is run by tellers and they still, and white supremacists still own and control HBCU. So that shit don't mean absolutely nothing.
Folks didn't like it 15 years ago when I said that they think I'm just hating or whatnot. But the bottom line is, for me, I mean, I wrote off the HBCUs a while ago. That I don't see that as a positive. In fact, I see that as a negative. If you are happily promoting the HBCUs, I see that as a negative. They haven't proven any worth here. Basically, what you have are institutions for people who want to be climbers. They want to be social climbers, and they think they're going to lord over the rest of us when they get where they're going.
And it is now. I'm glad you made that up when you say it's a negative because, damn, I don't want to say this, but most black people who go to HBCUs, it's a lot of, because I've been to some of these colleges. I used to slide to some of these colleges, and it's a lot of degenerate shit going on. It's kind of like they program you to become coonish or become hoish or become, you know what I'm saying, the worst of you. You know, if that makes sense to you. They don't teach you nothing about blackness like that or something that really, really, you know what I'm saying, or something that really, really matters.
Dan, I don't know if we're able or ready to have that conversation here tonight because we got so much ground to cover with this, but you just stepped in something so big there. It's just, I don't know if we got the wherewithal, the bandwidth to even get into this. So I don't want to start something I can't finish. But I mean, there are just so many avenues to what you just said, you know, that are impossible to argue with. So yeah, the HBCUs, as far as ideology is concerned, as far as degeneracy is concerned, that's what they rep is for. You can talk about all these schools, especially when they start trying to brag on themselves, whether it's Xavier, yeah, I'm talking about you. Whether it's Xavier or these other schools or whatnot, yeah, we start seeing that. So it's not really nothing to brag on when you get down to it. When we start getting the details about, by the way, what were y'all doing there? Racking up body counts, doing drugs. But what you're not getting is this brain trust of super intelligent, best and brightest. We don't have that.
Yeah. Not putting the money back into the school once they get funded.
Oh, hell no. No. There's no endowment. These niggas go off, they become attorneys, or the few who do become competent attorneys or doctors. They don't come back and do any endowment. Jackson State got to have Deion Sanders basically working pro bono because your students are doing what the schools taught them, every man for himself. And so you come begging the rest of us who didn't go to the HBCU to get money from the government to fund the HBCUs. Meanwhile, over at Harvard, damn! Different story. I'll let you have the last word.
This is a good subject, but whatever you touch on that story, I will be hitting the line back, touching on that story and So my last words is them people better read the room because ain't nobody fucking around out here in the street. So we see what it is. We up on game. We coded up. We doing more research than ever, especially if you're under the age of 40. We more smarter politically than ever. You know what I'm saying? Give a shout out to you and other brothers and sisters who've been on, you know what I'm saying, who've been doing this way before I was told of. So, and that I'm gonna just leave it at that.
Thank you very much for giving us a call. Now, like I say, to get into that one there, that would be a long, in-depth conversation. It's not totally different, but boy, that's a whole different avenue and dimension. We'd have to thoroughly go over that one to knock that one down. Yeah, that's a whole different thing. All right, let me go ahead and see if we can get Kirk up here on Zoom. Let me go ahead and see if we can get Kirk up here on Zoom. All right, Kirk, we got you on the line here, waiting for Kirk's audio to come on. And then we'll have him live and direct. All right, we got Kirk on the line here. What's on your mind?
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. What's on your mind?
Yeah, so I bring, first, let me say, great broadcast, important subject. I bring unique perspective with my background. My father is from the Caribbean. My mom is FBA. First, let me say, Kamala Harris very obviously isn't black, right? It's for me, it's about lineage, right? You have to have, historical tie to the slave class in the United States of America. So she doesn't check that box, right? And something that hasn't really been mentioned, right? My father's from the Caribbean. In the islands, they don't refer to themselves as black, right? So they're not even in the home country. They don't even refer to themselves as black, right? So I think that's pretty important. They only become black. They only become black when they come here.
Okay,
so,
let me make sure I'm confirmed there. Where in the Caribbean is we from?
Barbados.
Okay. Go ahead.
So I think that's like for me. I think it's not complex when it comes to Kamala Harris. I think the complexity comes when it comes to ultimately getting cash reparations for FBA. I think it becomes complex with one of the other callers mentioning, mixed black people and all that. I think that's the only complex issue here. But when it comes to Kamala Harris, she very obviously is not black. And, it's all love when it comes to our brothers and sisters of the diaspora. But the reality is in the United States, you have to have the lineage, right? There are other cultural aspects I agree with that certainly help make the case stronger. But for me, it really boils down to the lineage, right? I see firsthand from my family who are from the islands, just their attitude about certain things. Like my father, I mean, he's not a coon or anything like that, but he just doesn't have the context of the history as someone who grew up here, who knows the history a lot better, specifically when it comes to racism, white supremacy, right? So I think delineation is definitely needed. We definitely have to gatekeep in terms of who is actually classified as black. There needs to be a new there needs to be a new class, be it black foundational, black Caribbean, black African. I'm not going to pretend like I'm smart enough to know that answer, but that's what it has to boil down to. We have to be really specific, just from the attitudes oftentimes from our brothers and sisters who weren't born in the United States or even maybe first generation. There's a difference. Firsthand, I see it with my family in terms of politics and the priorities, right? I see how what their political priorities are. Just anyone but Republicans in office. They don't vote with an agenda specifically for black people. They vote with just for Democrats. And like the older I get, it's crazy. As a son of an immigrant, the older I get, the more I oppose immigration. Just from seeing like the attitudes of immigrants. Unfortunately, they come to the United States and just go along with the Democratic vote, not challenging them, looking for anything tangible for Black Americans, despite the fact that if it wasn't for Black American descendants of slavery, they wouldn't be here, right? It's definitely a separation and a distinction. And again, that's coming from someone who has both. I see it directly. How it differs on both sides of my family. So I think it's really an important conversation. But Kamala Harris it's so fake. It's actually it's amusing to me that this is even a topic in the mainstream media. Like she's very obviously not
Well, I
black.
mean,
It
here's the
makes
thing
sense.
is that this is a conversation held by us, not by the boule butt kissers, not by the wannabe Democrat Party operatives, people looking for a job, in cable media. This is a conversation being hosted and held by the soil, not influenced by the white power brokers to tell us what black is or to try to dictate it to us. That's a big difference. That we have this conversation amongst ourselves so that when we come to that determination ourselves, it's going to be something that we can live with, not something that somebody else told us because it's what's most convenient for them. And that's what we've been subjected to all this time. If these had been questions that would have been asked of Barack Hussein Obama, he never would have made it to the White House.
Yeah,
People were asking questions that were most convenient for them, not asking the questions that were most convenient for us. Now, as a child of immigrants there in that regard, that's very important for you to ask those questions as well, because here's the real issue. Barbados is one of the most beautiful places on this planet. The Caribbean is one of the most beautiful places on this earth, period, point blank, bar none. And yet the children, particularly the young children of the Caribbean, don't have any inheritance in the land. The white folk run things, and increasingly the Chinese and Asians run things. But the children of the Caribbean are sitting up in the Bronx and Queens, where you can't own anything. Or if you do, you're going to own it at the very highest prices. Meanwhile, their actual birthright has been taken from them. And they have to ask themselves a question: is this right? That I'm sitting over here in Texas or Baltimore, but by the way, it's the Dominican Republic, I ain't got nothing there. Jamaica, I ain't got nothing. And you have a family sitting up there telling you that's okay? There isn't anybody who would own 20 acres in Jamaica who's going to give that up for 20 acres in Dallas, Texas. You'd be insane. You'd be clinically insane to do that. And yet that's what most of you are born into. And the heritage is that if you come from these places where, unfortunately, it's become the culture to stab everybody in the damn back, then they teach you that growing up without your inheritance, oh, well, that's okay. And we're here to tell you that's not okay. And we don't have an inheritance in the Caribbean. We're here to tell you the reason that there's something over here to inherit is because we didn't act that way. We valued where we are. We valued who we are, and we fought for our birthright. The problem is most of you, unfortunately, the people who sent y'all over there, they didn't fight for your birthright, and they're not telling you to fight for it either. They're telling you to be a proud Jamaican in Atlanta. Be a proud Trinidadian in Queens. Be a proud Dominican in New Jersey. As opposed to what we showed you, which is be black first right here, right where your feet are standing. And if somebody attempts to move you, you show them that that was a bad idea. Thank you very much for giving us a call tonight. You have every right to be here, but the real issue for you all, I want you to understand what the real issue is. The real issue is the idea that you're being told you don't have a birthright. You need to just go ahead and run. Okay, now you've created a backstabbing culture where the very people over there who should be fighting for it are telling you it's not worth fighting for. Then you get over here and it's like, okay, let's undermine the people who didn't run. And do you realize that now that's become the culture? Now that's become the culture. Let me go ahead and see if I can get Antonio here. Let me see if we can get Antonio here. Turn off your speakers, Antonio. Okay, turn your camera on for me here, Antonio. We're not going to put you on the big screen, but we need to make sure there's no foolery. So I'm going to give you 5 seconds to get the camera on. If not, permanent vacation. There you go.
What up?
All right, Antonio, what's on your mind?
Hey, what's up, brother? So I've been hearing all the questions. I know she not black. No, historically, culturally, nothing about her black. I was just wanting to say she was on something where she was talking to a congressman, and she said she was talking to him about, she was talking to the director of ICE, and she was talking to him, and she was comparing the Ku Klux Klan to ICE. And he's like, well, ICE is a government agency, and the Ku Klux Klan was a terrorist organization. And my thing is, any Black American, any person that has anything to do with Black history in America, as we have the longest history in America, uninterrupted, because it intertwines with white American history as well often. I find that we would never say nothing like that, because what the Ku Klux Klan did was they systematically, after Reconstruction fell apart, and they allowed the Democrats to come back into Congress back in the 1870s. When they did that, they pretty much allowed them to come in and destroy that land, that coastal land that was given as the 40 acres and a mule from Georgia up through, I think, Virginia. And they allowed them to come in and do that. They pretty much rained terror on us and murdered us, and they hung our congressmen and our senators that we had voted in, and they tried to.
Okay, well, let me clear that up for you here, brother, because there's a distinction that needs to be made here about what the logical fallacy is. You have to understand, con artists like Kamala Harris and her ilk, the Roland Martins and their ilk, they're natural born liars. And what they rely on is people not being able to debunk a logical fallacy. The reason why you cannot compare the Ku Klux Klan to Immigration and Naturalization Services is because the Ku Klux Klan was targeting naturalized citizens.
Right.
INS is targeting lawbreakers. You can't say that you're a law-abiding citizen and you broke the law by even standing here. So you don't get to claim our righteous position as being non-aggressive individuals simply being here to you being a person trespassing and somehow you're a victim of something.
Right. That's what I'm saying. My thing is, though, if she really wanted to understand and have the equivalency to be accurate, it would be the same as ICE going into the Senate when she was a senator, when she was doing this, and hanging her from a tree like they did our Black senators when we were in our duly elected positions back in the day. That's the same thing.
Right, but the problem here is, did you see how she responded? She just understand. You see a bunch of people respond the same way in that regard. Kamala Harris, I got an article from the LA Times from one of their writers. They respond in this very entitled, selfish way, but only when it comes to immigrants. You've never seen Kamala Harris respond that way as far as Black folk here in America dealing with systemic racism. She tries to take what happened to us and project it and imprint it onto her lineage and her experience as an immigrant and child of immigrants. So there's where the real issue comes in. Thank you very much for giving us a call tonight. Let me get Andre here on Zoom. By the way, for those of you who already talked to me and everything, you want to go ahead and exit Zoom. We don't want to have to, if that thing takes you out of there, you might not be able to join again. So let me go ahead and see if we can get Andre here on Zoom. Andre, go ahead and turn your lights on. I'm going to give you 5 seconds to go ahead and get that on. If we don't, permanent vacation. So Andre, let's get all that together. Okay, Andre dipped out, so he must have been trying to get together his OnlyFans. Not necessary. Let me go ahead and see if we can get the next one up here. Okay, it says iPhone. Let me find out here. Sister, what's your name? Why is she looking like a Diane Carroll? And for you to project it like okay, that. Turn off your speakers, ma'am.
Yes.
There you go. She looking like Donna Summer. I'm in Donna Summer. Why are you looking like Donna Summer with glasses on?
I do not look like Donna Summer.
She works hard for the money.
Look at who's on the picture behind me. That's Billie Holiday.
All right. Well, that's a good start.
Okay. So I am foundational Black American. My great-great-grandfather is on the Cherokee Freedmen rolls. My family comes from the Florida-Georgia border on my mother's side and from Norfolk on my father's side, migrated to New York. I'm speaking to you now from Europe, okay? I live and work all around globally. And I am offering a different perspective. The Indians, I don't know if anybody's aware of what's going on in England right now, but it's on fire because I've watched the Indians and Pakistanis take over the UK. I think that the Indians all know that she's Indian. They talk about it all the time and they're very proud of it. And they're willing to go with this Black narrative because they want to be in power.
Yeah, I mean, like I say, they're pushing back heavy over there on that now, as far as the illegals and stuff over there. Kind of late to the party, but they're pushing back on that heavy now.
Yeah.
In that regard,
they are. It's on fire right now. I'm saying that Mrs. Imhoff, the Indians want that power. I'd be happy to see how these skiwees that are, caping for her, how they react when she turns back Indian. If they elect her into office,
they're gonna roll. They're gonna roll with it.
Then.
They're gonna roll with it because let's just be totally honest. We gonna just lay it on the bricks. All these sorors and whatnot, they wish they had a Doug Imhoff to go to.
Auntie, chill.
Let's just call it for what it is. They, Monique Presley and the rest of them, their whole damn reason for going to college and getting their master's or their PhD is they were hoping there was a white man that they could land, and it never worked out for them. So now they got to come slum with us Negroes. But if any of them hoes, did he say hoes? I damn sure did.
And deal with it, nigga.
If any of them hoes had their chance, they would be right there with Kamala. They wouldn't even break for ground. They'd be right there. So trust me, ma'am, the only thing they would feel for her is envy. They'd be like, damn, she made it.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm saying, but when she turns her back on them and becomes Indian so that she can sneak other Indians into power, this is no...
They're going to be okay with it. They're just gonna, remember, there's no honor among thieves. So they'll just they just charge that to the game. Oh well, there's no honor. The only thing they would be upset over is that she's the one getting the chance to do it and not them.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to say this. I want to thank you so much for this thread because I've been gaslit so much and people want to make me think I'm crazy, but I've seen all of this from so long ago, and I'm astonished at how many Black people say that she's Black and to shut up about it. I'm in Jamaica twice a year for the past 37 years. There are many Indians in Jamaica. There are many Germans in Jamaica. There are many Chinese people back in the lush forest or jungles of Jamaica that were left there from the slave trade, and they've been there for generations. I have never heard her speak in Jamaican patois or anything like that. So, like you said, she's jumping around whatever suits her. And
Kamala Harris is a tourist in Jamaica. I played that video of her yesterday with the clown who thought he was one-upping something. She literally said, I visited Jamaica several times. Woman, you going on 60 years old, and the best you visited several times. In other words, you like the rest of us. You're just a tourist over there. Thank you very much for giving us a call tonight. You're just a tourist over there. We don't get to claim any Jamaican lineage or heritage of us. She's seen Jamaica as many times as most of us have seen it. You're going to try to hang a Jamaican credential on her? Let me go ahead and see if we can get B Token. Okay, interesting name there. All right, B Token. And what's on your mind? Make sure you have your speakers on. B Token is waiting to get that going there. Very glad to have B Token on here, by the way. Go ahead, B Token, waiting to see you. We're waiting to hear you. Got your speakers on, something. B Token is calling us directly from the studio there. Sir, we are waiting for you to audio here. He's trying to figure out this newfangled technology. Okay, there you go, I think.
Ew.
All right, B Token, and what's on your mind?
I don't even know at this point. I was still listening to the stream and stuff. Man. I don't know. Ask me some kind of question.
Are you high?
Yes.
Okay. Are you drunk?
A little.
Okay. Have you ever seen any of your family members naked?
Fuck no.
Okay. I'm not too sure about that one right there, but let me give you a chance to go ahead and sober up there. All right. We having serious business tonight, so I can't detour very hard about that. Let me go ahead and see if we can try to get Fred up here. Let me get Fred up here. Let me turn it off right quick. All right, let me see if I can get Fred up here. Okay, we got Fred up here. I got the thing turned off. So, hi, Fred. What's on your mind? At least we're trying to. Fred is working on his microphone setup, I think. Let me see. No, Fred, wake up, dude. Okay, y'all, I don't know what's going on with Fred. Let's see if we can try somebody else here. Let's see if we can get Jonathan up here on Zoom. Let's see if we can get Jonathan up here on Zoom. We're going to give Jonathan a chance here. You got a lot going on. Okay, there you go, Jonathan. And what's on your mind?
Not a whole lot, man. I just wanted to say I appreciate you guys
You got your
talking
speakers
about...
on. You got me. Turn off YouTube or whatever.
You got your speakers on. You got me.
Got you.
All right, Jonathan, what's on your mind?
I wanted to say, first things first, I appreciate you bringing up the octoroon, quadroon point of view. I mean, myself, I'm an octoroon.
Okay, I'm about to say, you look like Andrew Tate, so... I'm about to say, you hear that a lot, I'm pretty sure, but yeah.
I was telling somebody about how so upset I was that I had to share facial features with that motherfucker, but oh, my bad. Can we swear?
Yeah, you're fine. You're fine.
All right.
Tristan hasn't burned any bridges just yet, but I'm waiting for that shoe to drop. But Andrew is officially off the island.
Yeah, no doubt. But yeah, no, I really appreciate that. Because it is confusing. You get a little confused when you're on that. Race is a spectrum, right? We all come from Africa at the end of the day. When you look at some DNA, when you look at any kind of analysis of DNA, everybody's got some sort of trace African. We all come back there. Every scientist will tell you who deals in genetics, we all come from Africa at some point or another. So, that's just facts, whatever. But, for somebody like such as myself, it can be difficult to navigate the waters. Myself, I subscribe to certain, 5%er philosophies, things like that. I also have, some Jewish blood in me. I've got a lot of European blood in me. So I look at philosophies from...
Well, let me find out here. How do you identify?
I identify as mixed. I would say that I identify as mixed.
Okay, well, let me ask you a question in that regard here, because maybe this will help clear some things up here. Where is the mixed community?
We're all over the place.
And do you see where the issue comes in then?
Oh, most definitely.
Okay, because the real thing is, like I say, is at that point right there is, especially the reason why for Kamala Harris that's tricky is because when you're going to say that you speak for certain people, that becomes very, very difficult because you can't pick and choose because we don't get to, those of us whose features are more distinct, we don't get to pick and choose.
That's exactly true. And that was kind of what I was going to come on and say is I don't necessarily believe that she's black. I believe that she's mixed. And so she might take certain positions where she wants to play black sometimes.
Yeah, because that gives you, contrary to social beliefs,
power. It gives her currency.
There are political privileges that a properly placed person can gain by claiming blackness. Now, there's always going to be social liabilities, but by the way, politically, you might get some advantages if you claim black. But socially, we don't get to play that game socially. There's the problem, and that's why to us it's offensive.
And, that's definitely where, I'm the type of person, I'm college graduate, went to college, all that, whatever. I was the type of person who I might sit in a class and somebody would, a professor would say, well, white people were the first person to do a written language or something like that. And I'd be the first person. I'm part Nubian. That's where my my African side is Nubian, from the actual Nubia area of Africa. But I mean, Nubians had a written language like pretty much concurrently with Europeans. It all developed around the same time. So I'm the type of person who I would point that out and say, look, I get where you're coming from, but you don't know the whole story. So here's part of the story. Kemet, they had a written language.
Well, I can get that part
some
there,
people
but
don't want to see that.
Yeah, but
there's
here's the issue though, is that I hear everything you're saying there, but there's a problem in there. You can point those things out, but do you realize that as a mixed person, here's the issue. With what authority can you speak on behalf of Nubia as a mixed person? I can understand a Nubian speaking that way. I can understand an Ethiopian speaking that way. I can understand a Caribbean persons, but how does a mixed person speak on behalf of a specific group?
Not necessarily speaking on behalf of, but more speaking in like, how do I want to say it? Like speaking not as an advocate either, because I am part Nubian.
Thank you.
So I'd be advocating for myself to a certain extent.
Right. You're following that's what I'm saying. That it's one thing when people have ideologies. It's another thing when they have mathematics. Mathematically speaking, and I don't want to put you on the spot, but I do think it's necessary for us.
I'm a mathematician.
Great. In the 21st century, I think it's essential for us to at least clear those things up in that regard. Previously, in the 20th century, we allowed some of this fence hopping like that. Going forward, we see where that has been a tremendous problem. And so if a person does not identify one way or the other, they are going to have to understand that their ability to speak on certain things is going to be limited.
Oh, for sure. I mean, and that's the thing, what was that? Last time I was out in New York, I did grad school out in Stony Brook. So I went out to New York a couple times. I had lived out there for a long time, so I went back into the city. And I went up to go see the gods up at the school of Mecca there. And I'm there to listen. If I go up there, I'm there to listen, not to talk, not to like give my perspective. I mean, I guess that's sort of fucked up that I'm doing it here right now, but you know how it is.
Well, let me find out, but why? Why would you?
To listen, to understand that, I might not have a full picture because I'm not necessarily a full race. Do you see what I'm saying there?
Yeah. Do you see where the problem? Yeah. I mean, that creates problems because, for example, Kamala Harris does not live as a black person. You take a look at her life. I'm talking about I
absolutely agree.
From the house she lives in, to what she does when she gets up in the morning, to where she worships, to who she's sleeping with. There is no connection to the society. Going to an HBCU obviously meant nothing, because you see what happened as soon as she left the place. So do you feel like you're kind of in the same bag?
I do, like, to a certain extent, and I do feel it like, because I don't want to say I identify more with my black side than I do with maybe my white side or my Jewish side. But at the same time, I can't go out into the world and have people say, oh, you're black for sure.
Okay, but that's not the question, though. That, like I said to the guy earlier, though, that's not the question. The question is, can you go amongst your Jewish family and claim anything over there with them?
Oh, I don't talk to my family, period.
Okay, well, that's an awkward situation. But my whole point is, by the way, I don't think there's any synagogue that you could go into and claim where your Jewishness would be honored.
Oh, absolutely not. But I mean, that's the thing is, like, I can't go into a white, like, I live in Oregon, to be honest with you. And like, I go out here and I get called the N-word and shit.
Yeah. So. The real issue is, and that's what I was saying here before. I'm glad you called up so that I could go ahead and remind people about this phraseology I give people. When people sit up here and talk about being biracial or mixed, I mean, my answer is, okay, you can only make that designation to the extent that it's going to be honored somewhere. You can't go anywhere in white society, and whatever your white makeup is, it won't be honored. You can't go in Jewish society. Your Jewish makeup won't be honored. Your Irish won't be honored. Among us, we're the only people that you have any chance of if you do have any melanated ancestry, that it will be honored. We're the only group that extends that to anybody. Nobody else even extends that.
I'm going to be dead ass with you. It's like, I don't really feel that way. because when I go out to like last time I was saying I was in New York, people would look at me and they'd say like, oh, it's Mr. Silver, like Adam Silver or something like that. Like, oh, he's Jewish.
Well, it depends. It depends how you living.
No, it depends. Like,
But
it really
no. But it
depend,
depends
but
on
you
how
really
you're
have,
living. It depends on how you're living. Are you living as a black person, or are you living as a mixed person?
And I guess that's really, like I said, I'm the type of person who, like, I do hold to certain 5%.
Certain. Thank you. Okay, but we can't do certain, brother. We all in and we all out.
I don't feel that way about things, man. I'm not like an absolutist by any stretch of the imagination.
But we're treated as absolutely black. We're treated as absolutely black, though. We don't have a choice. We are treated as absolutely black.
No, and I totally appreciate that, man. Like that's I mean, to a certain extent, like that's beautiful to me. Like I wish I could say something absolute, but like from my perspective, as somebody who can't really go into any group and be completely accepted, it's like you were saying earlier, like we're gonna pull your card if you come into our neighborhoods, or like if you come into the culture.
No, listen to me.
Like,
I'm from Louisiana. Okay, we got Creoles and stuff.
Yeah.
I got people in my family tree who, during segregation, during Jim Crow, could have passed for white. I'm not talking about
Like
just
Creoles.
one or two. Could have passed for white. They said no. We're not going to do that. They chose a harder, more difficult life. So I cannot dishonor them from 50, 60, 70, 100 years ago. Meet a guy in 2024 and tell him that he gets a pass on that. They were able to do it and they could pass for white. You could pass for white. You can make the same choice. Now, you're not obligated to. You're not obligated. But please understand, I gotta hold you the same standard.
I feel obligated to be honest with you. Like if I'm out in the world, like that's how I act. Like I act how I talk. Like if I'm gonna go out into the world and say like, okay, like I'm not gonna stand for no kind of racism or whatever. Like I'm the type of person who's gonna stand with my people. When somebody comes up and calls them the N-word or whatever, we're gonna fight. You know what? Like I'm not gonna let that happen. Like you're not gonna call my person the N-word and not get hit. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to do my thing. And that's just how it is. I identify as black. When I go into black spaces, I'll still identify as it. But I can't necessarily say that I'm going to be accepted as it. And that's like, I guess that's the point.
Okay, but there's the problem right there. What you just said. Kamala Harris, and this is the thing for mixed folk and whatnot, and I guess I've had experience, so I want to clear this up for you all. Yeah. The problem is not that anybody has challenged Kamala Harris's black credentials. That's not the problem. The problem is, as black people, we know how you're supposed to respond when somebody tries to check you, when somebody questions your credentials. Where you from? Whose man is this? What set you claiming? We know how you're supposed to respond when somebody questions your credentials. She didn't do that. She's never done that. It's been asked several times. She's been confronted with it several times, and she has never given the correct response. You cannot control some jackass who may question you whether it's justified or not. It's not a fair world. It's not about having a fair world. Definitely, yeah. Our heritage and our lineage informs us about how we respond to injustice. And that's not what she's doing. So when her credentials are questioned, she's supposed to be able to qualify those credentials. She instead opens up about collard greens in the damn tub and Fife Dog and Tupac and 20 acres and a damn mule. And then then she goes off in these crazy ass pantsuits with Doug. That ain't the right damn answer. That's not the right response to your credentials getting questioned. And the reason why is because she doesn't have any. Because if you question a black person's credentials, whether they Octoroon, Lena Horne looking, or whether they Cicely Tyson, you're supposed to be able, what you're supposed to do is draw upon your history, your personal experiences, your personal life experiences. Kamala Harris can't draw on any. She can talk about that crazy story about freedom and then leapfrogs from a little girl, leapfrogs all the way to college and at Howard. There's nothing in between and nothing she can draw on. That's why her black credentials are revoked, because it's obvious you don't have any. So why don't you just be the little cute light-skinned mixed chick and leave it at that? Instead of trying to cosplay as something you obviously aren't, because all you're going to do is offend us, which is what you've done, pretending to be something you're not. Just say you a mixed chick, you don't really fool with black folk like that right there, you married Doug, can I get your vote? And we'll treat you like we do the non-black politicians. And we have a very good history of voting for non-black politicians. You'll get a fair shake. But all this faking and fronting is one of us and chameleon one of us, that's the part that gets you disqualified. Then you pile this other stuff on top of it, you're unacceptable. I'll let you have the last word.
Oh, I was going to say that's absolutely true. I mean, I feel you on that. You know, you can't just sit there and say like, you know, one day, you know, Lord praised the Irish, the other day, you know, we're black as a motherfucker or whatever. You know, I absolutely agree with you on that. Like she's got to stay consistent. Like if she wants that vote, she's got to stay consistent. And I don't think that she's, you know, it's like, to me, it's like, what neighborhoods is she going into on her campaign trail? Like that's going to tell me a lot about how she feels about the community. And I'm not sure she's going to go into necessarily like non-suburban communities.
She can go anywhere she wants to. The problem is she will be a fish out of water.
I'm just saying, I guess it's not so much like where she goes or not. It's like where she goes and how she talks, you know, like what you were saying about.
She's going to be awkward no matter where she goes, unless she's in a room full of white professionals. Then she'll be totally at ease. But as far as being around us, it ain't going to work. Thank you very much for giving us a call tonight. Let me see if I can get Mike on here. Let me go ahead and get Mike up here. See if we can get Mike on here. Mike, tell me you were paying attention. Mike, let's make sure we have our camera and microphone turned on for me here, Mike. We would appreciate that. I'm waiting for Mike to get that on for me here. 5 more seconds, Mike, and then we got to move on in the interest of time. All right, Mike, there you go. All right, Mike, what's on your mind?
Nice to be joining you. I feel like, you know, we've talked before, you know, I'm not accepted by the white people, the foundational white supremacists. I'm obviously not black. I love black people and black culture. But my question, I guess, or comment is, how do we just divide the intersectionality between your conversation and what Trump and J.D. Vance are trying to use this conversation for, if that makes sense?
Okay, well, I'm not really sure what they were doing other than the question they were asked, but I do know what Kamala Harris has been doing. Let me find out a question here, though. Now, did you say you're not white either? So exactly what are you?
Well, I look white. People say I'm white, but if I get with the real white, heavy supremacist types, you know, I'm part Armenian. I do have a little bit of mixed Cuban, right? You know, I've got a big mix.
Okay. Well, please remember, like I say, I mean, there's a reason why we make some of those distinctions because, for example, when you say Latino is not a race. So you can be white, you can be black, but Latino's not a race. So in your case, you're still white. Now you might encompass some of those ethnicities that they consider to be, quote, other than white or less than white, which really means that they're going to bastardize you all in. So it's just a little bit of back and going forth. Remember, the Irish weren't white till they were. The Italians and the Greeks weren't white until they were. So you all are white also. Kim Kardashian, you know, these are white people. Some folks are kind of quibbling over it, but I mean, you're basically white people, but you're not Anglo. So there's where the real issue comes in. You're not Anglos.
Right. So the question is, I guess, more clearly is, you know, your conversation. I feel like I can't answer the question, is Kamala black or not? I don't think it's fair.
Life's not fair. Life's not fair, but there are rules that govern life, whether we consider it to be fair or not.
I have an opinion, but it's not the same as Trump's. Trump is using it to divide people and make racist people more excited to vote for him.
Okay, you don't think they're already you don't think they're already excited enough? You think they need more excitement?
No, I think that they're losing interest. They're inherently lazy people, and they've they've been dropping off, and he needs to excite them. That's why he's doing this.
Okay, how did he win in 2016 then?
He won because of Hillary's toxic baggage. I might.
Okay, well, the same group that was supporting him now was the same one supporting him then, and they weren't lazy enough. They weren't too lazy back then, and they weren't too slouching too badly in 2020. He kind of shot himself in the foot, and he was running ahead in all the polls until Biden dropped out. So laziness is not really one of the features those folks have in that regard. But let me ask you a question here. What is it that you see as divisive?
Well, it bothers me that, like, you've been talking about these issues for years, and I've watched tons of your media. And I really appreciate this conversation because it's important, and I believe in reparations. But I don't think Trump believes in reparations. I don't think he does anything for the Black community, especially the Black community that you're talking about being Black. And
you think Kamala has?
No, I don't. I really don't.
Okay,
then
here's the issue that we would have. Now that you've conceded that, no matter what you feel about Trump, let's just say everything you just said is absolutely correct. Fine. If you're going to concede that Kamala's in the same basket, why would I hold something against Trump if him and Kamala are the same?
Only because of his motivations are just so different than yours, and
Prove it.
Well, it just seems to me that Trump is never going to bring up reparations. He's never going to.
Neither is Kamala Harris.
Talk about this. That's true. But I don't want to get too bogged down into whataboutisms of it.
Yeah, but my point is that you can't prove. It's very hard to prove motive. So when you say, well, what are his motivations? How do you prove a person's motives? You can show me their actions.
Step back from trying to get into his head and just say, is it possible that he's using it in a nefarious way?
But that's what all politicians do.
Yeah.
Joe Biden.
So
Joe Biden did both of the crime bills in 1985, 1995. He did both of those. So I mean, that was straight demagoguery. So all politicians do that to a degree.
That's right. That's right. I guess my main point is that I haven't stated is I feel like some people will try to siphon off from your amazing movement to try and latch it in to what Trump is talking about.
I think that'd be a pretty far leap to make in that regard. I think if people vote for Trump, especially anybody who listens to me, then they've got their reasons for doing so, but they're not reasons that emanated from him. Here's the issue. A politician is supposed to make it dog stupid simple for you to understand why you need to vote for them. That's their whole job. That's the whole career they've gone into, is to make it a no-brainer that you vote for them. So if you're not getting somebody's vote, it's not the fault of the constituent that they're not voting for you. The whole job of politics is you're supposed to be in the art of convincing people to vote for you. So if Kamala Harris has lost a vote, especially a Black vote to Donald Trump, what the hell did you say wrong to these people to get that to happen? There must be something she's doing that's causing that particular reaction to get folks to jump that far over. What in the world are you doing that made it very obvious to them that you're that objectionable? No matter what they saw from Trump, they saw something from you that was more objectionable. Here's the point right here. You can say whatever you want to about Donald Trump, and I will. I was a huge critic of his when he was president. If he wins the election, I would be right back on his ass the very next day, which is what I did when he was president. I'll be right back on him. Well, Jason, why come you not on this hard right now? Because he's not in office. I'm talking about the folks who are in office. They do make the policy. They are in power. I'm talking about them. If he gets back in office and he's in power, I don't want to hear about Joe Biden anymore. Trump, we talking about you. So the real issue here is, no matter what you might think, Donald Trump doesn't strike you as being pandering. He's not pandering for the Black vote. You can sit up and say you don't like what he's offering. Okay, fine. He's not pandering for it, and he's not making up a false black history. Kamala Harris is claiming to, quote, be one of us and speak for us. To which I say, okay, that's fair game if it's accurate. And all she's really doing right now is making it where, well, both of you are equally objectionable. One of you is a suspected white supremacist, and the other one is a suspected cosplaying black phony. Neither one of you seems very genuine, or at least seems very honest. So I got to respond to both of you the same.
I appreciate that. And I know you're playing the long game, and I think that's the hardest game to play. And power to you. Someone in the chat said, I think you're dumb. Black people are dumb. Farthest from the truth. I just, I do worry about another Donald Trump presidency.
Why?
Not only.
Well, why for you? Why for you personally? What's your personal objection to him?
I worry about the country because at least we all know that it's kind of a pigeon position. You're the guy in the desk, but it's all the other people that I'm worried about, not as much him.
Well, yeah, I mean, for yourself though. I mean, what is your personal objection to him? That's what I'm trying to find out.
To be honest, about Trump personally, I'm not a anti-Trumper. I feel like he is the most poised person in this country to actually create a good thing. I just think he's surrounded by sycophants and idiots, majoritively speaking. There might be a few forward-thinking people, but he's done poorly in business, even though he still has a lot of money. He's found ways to game the system. More power to that if that's what you're into. But I do see him as an existential threat. It's just a deep gut feeling. And maybe it's something that seeped into me from mainstream media and propaganda.
Do you realize something? I want you to take a chance. You might want to take a little bit of time to reflect on that. And by the way, I'm not voting for Trump. I didn't vote for him in 2016 nor 2020, and I will not vote for him in 2024.
I know.
But what I will say is that if you do support somebody or don't support somebody, you cannot use something as consequential and as critical as your vote based on a feeling. If you cannot, my objections to Kamala Harris, not because I feel something. I can name for you specific things she's done, specific things she said. I can run straight down the list. So I would strongly advise anyone listening, no matter who you support or who you don't, you need to be able to say specifically what they did. Your vote is too important to use or withhold based simply on a feeling. Thank you very much for giving us a call tonight. And that goes for everybody. Your vote's too important to have a feeling be the reason why you're doing it. You need to be doing it because you saw something, you heard something, you can specifically say something. Even if people disagree with it, you should have something specific you can invoke. Otherwise, feelings for our vote? No. Your vote has nothing to do with feelings. Your vote needs to be a conscious, concrete decision based on facts. Let me go ahead and see if we can get Cuzzo here on Zoom. Let's go ahead and get that going here. Okay, Cuzzo. All right, looks like you have an old 1990s BET video. What's on your mind, Cuzzo?
Yo, I'm appreciating this conversation that you guys are having tonight. Right? But I like to get down to the nitty-gritty. As a Black American, yeah, I think this country, we got it for another civil war if Kamala Harris get elected in 2023. One, because the country is so lopsided. What is she doing for family? That's my whole thing as a Black
Okay, well,
family.
let me find out something here in particular here. Do you feel that Kamala Harris is black? Or do you think she's black?
I don't know. Not at all, so.
Why is it that you don't think she's black?
Well, because one is how you grew up and how you're raised. In the pictures that she's dressed in, or her sisters Her cousins and her brothers, they dressed a certain way. When I was raised up, I didn't wear that. Right? Yeah, I'm an inner city kid. We didn't grow up dressed up like that. So and then you're raised with your mother. Your mother is basically a caretaker who raises you from the time you come out the womb. That's what father said is what mama do in our household. She take care of the house. So whatever she is, that's what you are. Right? She instills those morals and values in you. Pops is there to discipline you. But morals and values, that come from the woman.
Okay, what is it you think that she's missing?
Man, the black experience, the struggle. She could catch a cab in New York City. A black person cannot catch a cab in New York City. Waving their hand, you have to pull the cab. Certain struggles in life she would never have to go through, but she never went through. She's married to a white man. She's not married to a black man. So how does she know what a black man goes through in a day, dealing with the world as it is every day? The struggles of a black man. So when I put my effort into vote for somebody like that, I'd rather vote for the white boy who I know who's racist, because I know it's up and it's stuck with them. I've been fucking the crap. Forget about what the white boy talking about. He want to jump into the race. He hasn't made that one policy that has made my ears perk up yet to this day.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for giving us a call here tonight. He's coming through a little bit digital there, but thank you very much for giving us a call. I think we got the point. Let me go ahead and see if I can get Nicholas here on the line. Nicholas, go ahead and pick up for us here. All right, Nicholas. Waiting for Nicholas's audio. There you go. All right, Nicholas, what's on your mind?
Yes, sir. So first, I think the topic is whether Kamala is black or not. I personally think she is black. The reason I say she's black is because when it comes to defining someone's black or not, it's usually a visual thing. So if a white man sees a person and if they look like a black person, they're going to determine them as black. And if most people look at Kamala, they're just going to think she's a light-skinned black person. So that's why I would say she's black.
Okay. Now we'll go ahead and deal with this because the first call of the night, we wanted to make sure I dealt with that because the way I define it, which I think is the most reliable way, is the three pillars of it. First of all, genetics. Just because a person might not look a certain way does not mean that they're not carrying those genes. The whole reason for white supremacy, as Dr. Francis Cress Welsing defined for all of us, is their fear of genetic annihilation because we carry dominant genes. And what we have seen is genealogically, over time, those genes can reassert themselves. So if you don't keep drowning it with European genes and whatnot until it's gone, those genes will can reassert themselves in later generations. I'm sure you've all seen pictures of kids who look like their great-grandparents. It's like, wow, you're the spitting image. Yeah, those genes have started to reassert themselves. So that fear of genetic annihilation is because we do carry dominant genes. So genetics, first of all. Second of all is phenotype, the way you look. We have a certain look as people. Of melanated descent, immediate African ancestry, we have a certain appearance to us that people have come to expect. So that's that appearance that you're referring to. Okay, those are kind of intertwined with the genetics, since genetics can strongly influence phenotype. Got it. But then there's that last part. Can we classify you as black if the identity is not there? The behaviors, the mannerisms, the culture, the way in which you see yourself. Can you be black if the behavior component is missing?
Are you asking me that question?
Yes.
I think so, because there are people who are black whose behavior isn't the way it is, or you would think they would be more like on code. Like I'm thinking people like Clarence Thomas, people like Thomas Sowell. Like these are people who are like Uncle Toms, and they are like from Black America. So I would say that you can't take their blackness away just because they're coons.
So you do not believe that there's a behavior component that qualifies a person to be included among us as black?
No, I do not.
Well, that certainly is a rather freewheeling way of doing things. And it also leaves a whole lot of things open because by that definition, how can you exclude anybody else?
You mean exclude people from being black?
Well, I'm just saying that's going to open up the door to a whole lot of things that are actually going to infringe on that appearance thing you're referring to. If blackness is merely confined to its appearance, has nothing to do with behaviors, practices, cultures, language, music, what we've created, it has nothing to do with any of those. It is merely confined to an appearance. Then I don't see how you define blackness. Because you can have some swarthy skinned white men who, well, if they can pass for black, we got to include them too because they have the appearance.
Yeah, that's correct. And if we're being honest, Kamala Harris is basically that we're talking about because there's good evidence that she doesn't even come from like a black Jamaican.
Oh, no. I'm talking about Anglos. You have certain Anglos, if their nose is a certain way or their lips are a certain thickness, he could pass for a light-skinned black person.
I mean, I haven't seen that, but you could possibly be right. Like maybe like an octoroon, like someone who's like really, really light.
No, I'm talking about Anglos. Now, I'll be specific ones. They're bald there, but there's a reason why we talked about Italians the way we have and whatnot. So in reality, yeah, you can find some who do that. And if we're going to make that the criterion, then any white woman with sufficiently thick lips and a sufficiently broad nose, well, she qualifies too now.
But I guess on the flip side of that coin, if we were to have a white person who was culturally black, would they be black?
Culturally? Now think about that for a few moments. Culturally. So the behaviors, the mannerisms, the identity, they see the value in it. No, what I'm saying is you either have all three or you have nothing.
Okay, I can see what you're saying with that. Again, like, I think when it comes to the majority of people in America and majority of people, of white, black people, who they're looking at Harris, they're seeing a light-skinned black woman and they're basing her black based on that.
I think you can say
whether
that.
It's right or wrong.
I think you can say that if you're making assumptions, because the real thing is if she has no connection to the soil, no value of the culture, no even frame of reference, she has no knowledge of it. Basically, you've got this partial Indian person who may, in some ways, resemble us on the fringes, but the resemblance is only skin deep. She literally doesn't have anything else. And what I'm saying is, if black is that. If you all define black in that superficial a way, then you've actually opened the door for a lot of other people that I don't think you all have actually really even considered. If you don't have all three of those things, well, he might look like one of us. Wait a minute, check the genetic paperwork. Oh, you're Anglo. From a fluke of genetics, your nose looks a certain way, or your skin might be a certain way, or your lips might be a certain way. You see plenty of white women like that. Oh, your lips might be a certain way, your nose might be a certain way, but the genetics clearly show you're not one of us. Not holding it against you. It's just so we make sure we're clear about where you stand. You got to have the genetics and the look, and finally, the identity. Because what I'm saying is without that, all you're passing on, the only thing you're passing on is your appearance. Okay. And if you're going to say that that's all blackness is, then what you're saying is, well, when you die, all you pass on is what you look like. We're not passing on anything else. Not your values, your cultures, what you built, none of that. So the next generation can sit up here and be completely divorced from it, and they're black too? With no history, no connection, no lineage, no nothing. Well, they look this way, so that's all black is what you look like? Like the color red on a car?
Yeah, I think to mainstream American society, that's what black is.
Yeah, but I'm not. Tonight's discussion is not with mainstream American society.
But
that's why the title is "Do Black People?" I'm not asking for the rest of America. I'm saying, do we as black people, do we think Kamala is really like us? So I'm glad I get to clear that up. I'm not asking all of America. I'm asking just us right here.
Okay, that's fair. But I guess I would say that a lot of black people still just look at her as a light-skinned black person and they just assume she is.
Yeah, because here's my thing. Our skin color, our phenotype, it has no value if we're not passing something down. If we're not passing down our musical legacy, our cultural legacy, our artistic legacy, our legacy of survival, our legacy of resistance, our legacy of unique insight, if we're not passing that down, what is blackness if all we're passing down is a phenotype?
I mean, I don't know about it. Even how you said, Dr. Francis Chris Wilson said the fact that we're being black is a threat to white supremacy because we have the capacity to annihilate them genetically. So just us passing down blackness is a threat to them, or something that can be passed down to, that is worth passing down, I'll say.
Well, please understand, even in Nazi Germany, for example, you all can go look up the Wannsee Conference. If you all really want to know where the rules were laid down, go look up the Wannsee Conference. You can go Google that after the program is over. That's where the rules were actually laid down, which basically said you could be considered Aryan as long as it didn't go back, any other ancestry didn't go back to your great-grandparents. Anything after that, you might not be. So what I'm saying is even they acknowledged it only goes to a certain point. They were worried about immediate genetic annihilation. A dark-skinned man with a broad nose and thick lips getting with a white woman, that kid's going to come out looking way like him, not like her. That was what they were afraid of. 3-4 generations later, they understood the efficacy of breeding something out. They were experts at it. They're worried about in the immediate, that if you are allowed to keep first generationing, you're done. You won't get 3 or 4 generations down the line. That first generation can be genetically annihilated. And they understood that. That's what they were afraid of and fearful of. The other thing is, by the way, now I'm glad you mentioned that, because the next thing they were concerned about is, by the way, if these children look different, by definition, they will identify differently. Everyone wants to know where they came from. And if you're the only German kid with curly, kinky hair, you will go asking questions. And unless we can just simply prevent you from ever getting an answer or a concept of an answer, you're eventually going to find it. Now, what happens when you walk in that room and you see other people with noses much more similar to yours than these Anglos you were raised around? And they're looking at you like you're one of them. Your genes are going to start talking to you. You've seen that before. You're going to walk in there and you will not be afraid. You will not feel awkward. You're going to start feeling like you're at home, or at least you belong here. At that point, you're putting down the damn strudel and the Luftwaffe, and you're all of a sudden your behaviors are going to start changing. Even if it's only a 25% change. There goes Germany. There goes Germany. Right there. You're going to come back with something else. Let the genetic annihilation begin. Even they understood it's deeper than just a phenotype and a skin color. What good is Germany if we're not passing on the German culture? That was the whole reason for getting rid of the Jews. Easy scapegoat, but the thing you scapegoat on them is, by the way, they're not passing down our Germanic culture. It doesn't matter that they look like us. The behavior component is missing. You got them funny hats on your head. You're wearing them long beards. You're worried about diamonds too damn much. No. No, this ain't gonna work. And we can go across the board from there to Russia to Asia, South America. There's a reason why you keep seeing that crop up. That's why I'm pointing out to you all, by the way, and I know this, at no point have I said you're wrong. And just like the previous people, I want to point this out. I did not say you're wrong. You have your opinion on it. You can have your position. Jason didn't say you're wrong. But by the way, just one last thing. You notice those other folks I mentioned, they have the 3 components that I said. None of them say it's just the way you look. None. All of them say there's a behavior and cultural component too. Go to Japan as a mixed person, even trying to pass, see how long you make it if you don't have the behavior. China, Korea, Japan. Try it. See what happens if the behavior alone is missing. Something to think about.
All right.
Thank you very much for giving us a call. By the way, folks, you take a look at other people there. You take a look at their cultures, their nations. Take a look at how the importance they put on that cultural component, the behavior component. Everybody else is strict about that. There must be something to it. Let me go ahead and see if I can get Cassandra on here. Let me see if I can get Cassandra up. Hopefully she's not calling me from the ER or something. Cassandra, wake up. I'm not going to sit here all night waiting on you. I'm not going to sit here all night waiting on Cassandra. Y'all know Cassandra should be looking around all crazy. All right, let me see if I can get S. Thompson up here. See if they can do a little bit better. Watch Cassandra pop up here in just a minute. Anyway, I'm late. Okay, wake up, S. Thompson. Okay, why is everybody laid over? Why is S. Thompson laid over? We got another person sitting up here making their R&B album. Wake up. Okay. I think S. Thompson has gone to sleep. Okay, S. Thompson is out of here. They have gone to sleep. Let's see if we can get Fred on here. Let's go ahead and see if we can get Fred to join us here. Okay, Fred's video is taking a moment there. At least I think it is, unless it's just all gray. There you go. All right, Fred, what's on your mind? Fred, speak.
Kamala Harris. No, I know that she's not black. As someone said in the chat, she's doing too much. A real black person would never have a presidential rally and have Megan Thee Stallion there twerking and dancing. The second thing is, I think she was slick, which is another way of saying that she's a con artist. She decided to be black, I'm assuming, to get into a HBCU school. And once she got there, I think she decided that, okay, I need to connect with some black folks. And what does she do? She go and connect with the Boule crowd. And she's a fake. That's the bottom line. So that's my take on that.
I think that's a very good point here. We're going to have a fundamental reconsideration about these HBCUs, the sororities, the fraternities, all these things that they're staples in black society, or at least they were. They're going to have to start getting their paperwork checked. And we're going to have a fundamental re-examination of them because they don't serve the people. They serve themselves. And what's happening with Kamala Harris is yet another brutal reminder that these sororities and Divine Nine and all that, they're really self-serving organizations that see the rest of us as their peons and paupers that they lead around and direct and bully or whatever, but that they're not really dealing with us. So while we do re-examine Kamala Harris, we would do ourselves a favor to be comprehensive and examine all of them. Thank you very much for giving us a call tonight, brother. We appreciate that. Let me see if I can get Jamal up here on the line. Let me go ahead and see if I can get Jamal up here. All right, Jamal. What's on your mind, brother?
Man, she not black. It's plain and simple, man. I mean, throughout the time, we always seen people who try to, what's that old Paul Mooney skit? Everybody want to be black, but don't nobody want to be black. And it make me look like, didn't we just have a similar situation a couple years ago where Rachel Dolezal trying to act like she was black? And then the credential came back and it showed she didn't have nothing, man.
Look here. Here's the way it usually happens, everyone. When you do have the little mixed chick whose credentials ain't right, she wasn't really raised in the right neighborhood and whatnot, but she wants to be a part of the soil. What generally happens is they go look for the darkest black man they can. Y'all know the program. Generally speaking, the little octoroon chick goes and gets the darkest black dude she can find. She either tries to get wifed up, get some kids, something. She tries to get herself genetically reintegrated into the people. She recognizes the importance of that. Not chasing a degree, not joining a sorority. If she is in a sorority, she's trying to get next to the brothers over there, which is why the little white light-skinned girls tend to get into fights. When they join the sororities, that tells me right there this Kamala wasn't really checking for no black dudes in the sorority, because I'm like, okay, she ain't got no fighting stories. If she was a little light-skinned chick and the brothers in the fraternities was trying to get at her like that, and if she was receptive, the other girls be trying to fight her. She has no stories like that. Nothing. She doesn't have any stories like that with Willie Brown. So what does that tell you? She was safe. She wasn't really encroaching on no territory. She was there professionally because she knew she could get some non-black men. She's around y'all because there's something else she wants. So that's really the pathology that we recognize is, when they trying to get themselves reintegrated, that's what happens. She has nothing like that and doesn't have it today.
Yeah, because I was talking to a female a couple of days ago, and she was pushing that you need to blow for Kamala because she a black woman, but she went to HBC. The chick I was talking to, she went to HBCU. She was in a sorority, and I was just hitting her with the facts because she a politician. It's all public records. We can look back on the track record. All she kept on saying was, "Well, you should do it because she black," and from that it has made me look at her completely different.
What you are recognizing there is what happens when people don't have a code and don't have a rationale. I mean, she does have a code, but it's a code that's not strategic. We cannot make political decisions based on our feelings. They have to be based on evidence, and they have to be strategic. She black. I mean, do you realize how wide open you've thrown the door there? So it doesn't matter what she does, how she acts. So if she's here to completely undermine us, we still vote for her? So we still vote for her even if she doesn't well, she looked like us, don't it? Okay, that's a stupid decision. You don't make decisions based on that. Hell, you don't make decisions based on anything in life, much less for politics. So no, that's not a valid explanation. That's not a valid reason. But that was the way the civil rights generation thought. And that was a little understandable because back then you had hardcore segregation. So the lines were a little bit more black and white back then, even though you had a lot of cooning going on then too. You cannot afford to be so simple-minded and unsophisticated today and make assumptions that, well, she black, she understands our experience, when I'm clearly showing you the proof. No, she doesn't. So what's happening, what you saw there is cognitive dissonance. The reality has met their fantasy, and they're refusing to let the fantasy go. Even though they've just seen incontrovertible evidence, they're holding on to it because they're afraid of what it'll mean if they don't. So what I want you all to do is spend your time and your efforts. Once you explain it to people, do what I do these things long form so you all can see that folks are not stupid. They're kind of stubborn or ridiculous, but they're not really stupid. They're just holding on to bad things. When you talk to folk, make sure when they demonstrate that to you and you can clearly see what the deal is, then just recognize what you're looking at and you don't have to spend a whole bunch of energy there anymore.
Would you say that that's a level of Stockholm syndrome though?
I mean, it could be, but Stockholm would come from a little bit of a different place. So it would take some type of interaction with somebody where you start identifying with them. So what you just said, I don't see an identifying with them component. I just see a very misguided code of conduct. She thinks she's enforcing a code of conduct, and she is. She thinks she's adhering to a code of conduct, and she is. But it's a simple-minded, unstrategic, and counterproductive code of conduct. Well, she black. That's why tonight's program has been asking people, define black. Define it. Because if you're going to tell me that it's only a person's appearance, do you realize what you just left open? If you're going to whittle it down and water it down to, well, take a look at their appearance. So I hope with the other calls that you heard here tonight that you see why I kept saying, black is, don't let somebody tell you that black is just an appearance. Don't let them tell you that. Black is what you do in addition to appearance and genetics. It's what we do. And yes, your behavior can disqualify you. It sure can. Thank you very much for giving us a call tonight. Let me see if I can get, have to start moving some folks off of here in just a moment now. Folks, if you're on the phone with me here, you need to hang up. I hate to have to remove you permanently. Please go ahead and jump off of there. Let me go ahead and see if I can get, let me see if I can get MB up here. MB, go ahead and turn your camera and your microphone on for me here. I'll give you 5 seconds to get that started, and then we're going to move on. All right, MB, what's on your mind?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you for taking my call here. It's a great broadcast here. I got a lot of thoughts on this. I'm pretty much locking step with much of what you're saying. My main thing with Kamala, I think I'm looking at it at a slightly different angle because my answer to the question would be yes, with a very, very large asterisk on it. And that I think she just hits the very, very bare minimum of being black in the same way that like a Candace Owens or the Hodge twins or Clarence Thomas hits the very technicality that, yeah, she's quote unquote black, but but just in a very bare minimum way though. But I more so look at it like a grade, if you will. I more so look at it like in the score of 0 to 100, where do you score on that? And I look at the 3 pillars of, all right, the very bare minimum of, all right, your genetic claim to it, and I'll give her that. And then I'll look at basically how do she identify with the culture? How do she genuinely identify with the culture? And for that, I would have like a bunch of simple questions that many of us can answer, whatever. Then the more damning question, I would say the pillar would be her conduct towards us, her conduct with us, basically.
Nobody's questioning her genetics. And as far as appearance is concerned, maybe you can go one way or the other on that. She can pass one way or the other. Yeah, but can you say you're one of us and there's literally no part of your daily life that lives like any of us?
Yeah, I mean, she tried to say, hey, I like Tupac. Tupac's my favorite rapper. I'm like, all right, if I was to ask a question, I would follow up with, all right, give me 5 Tupac songs. Can you give me 5 Tupac songs?
Well, now understand though, you're starting good there. You're starting good, but okay, you say, name for me your 5 favorite Tupac songs. The next question must be, after she names them, that's good. Why are those your favorite?
Yeah,
you see, when you ask me, what are your 5 favorite NWA songs? It's like, okay.
Right.
And the next one is, okay, well, why is F the Police? Why do you like that? Why do you like that? Straight Outta Compton. Why do you like that? So there's where we get into blackness as a culture, as a behavior, because if you like that, there must be some part of you that you identify with or that it identifies with you. Let me find out what that is. So when we talk about Marvin Gaye, there's a reason why we can name Marvin Gaye, Inner City Blues, Mercy Me. There's a reason why we can say those kind of things. It's like, okay, you like that song. You can ask me why. I can tell you why. You're describing my life growing up. You're describing my life growing up. There's a reason why people, for example, resonated with Biggie. Right. Folks from New York, cats from New York resonated with Biggie. They resonated with DMX. Why? Because they can understand. He was describing their life. They identified with that. They identified with that experience. If you're going to name out Tupac, yeah, you might be able to name it, but tell me why you like it, because understand something. You and me, we're not Italians. Now, we might like the movie Goodfellas. Do you see where this is about to go? See, you and me as black men, we might like The Sopranos. I was kind of iffy on that. You might like the Godfather movies.
Yeah.
But what you do not like them as is as an Italian. You don't identify as, that's not something you identify in your life. There's nobody in your life who was like Luca Brasi or the Corleones. Nobody you ever knew was like that. So yes, you can watch their movies. You can appreciate that. You can be entertained by that, but you're doing it as an outsider. But the difference is you ain't trying to claim that culture either. So when Kamala Harris says she likes Tupac, I'm like, okay, do you like that from the inside out, or do you like that like Lily Adams and them from the outside in? Like us watching mafia movies. You like it from the outside in, but it's not really something you identify with. Because there's a whole bunch of things we can watch that we don't identify with. Hell, sci-fi, fantasy movies, Lord of the Rings. I mean, you can like it, but you can't identify with it. You're never going to live there. You can't live there. Okay. And is that what she's doing with us in our culture? Is she doing that with us? You're watching it from the outside in, but you and the white girls on your campaign staff all see Tupac the same. Oh, I love that Tupac song back then. Holler if you hear me. And it's like, what the hell? So that's the reason why these things matter. Our music is not skin deep. Our culture is not skin deep. Our dance is not skin deep. Our practices are not skin deep. Our comedy is not skin deep. Richard Pryor was not Lenny Bruce. Lenny Bruce did a bunch of profane language. Richard Pryor and Red Fox were not Lenny Bruce. Whole different thing. You cannot compare what he was doing to what Richard was saying. Richard was bringing you the streets. He was bringing you our experience. He was bringing you what we live. They wasn't doing that. No insult to them, the Jewish comedians and stuff. That was cool. They brought sarcasm. They had a bunch of quirky family stories. And that's got a place in this world. And we have some element to that. What we brought was something that wasn't there before. A unique experience that we identify with. These other folks didn't bring jokes from the streets. They didn't bring prison jokes. They didn't bring dope dealer jokes. I ain't talking about Def Comedy Jam. I'm talking about Richard Pryor. I'm talking about Red Fox. I'm talking about Dolomite. That's what we brought. That was our experience. And nobody else had that. And what I'm saying is you ain't got no connection to that. Then if the only thing you and I have in common is an appearance, I can find some Anglos that we got some appearances we might share. I can find some Anglos and get that. That's not enough. I'll let you have the last word.
Yeah, no, that's pretty much it. Like, like kind of what you said last night's broadcast, when you were talking about how much of an outsider she is, and she brought in Meg, and and just find ironic when she's in, funny how she was in Atlanta trying to posterize with us, and I'm just thinking of Kendrick Jones. You're not a colleague, you're a colonizer, and that's what I'm thinking of when I see her trying to posterize amongst, with us or whatever. Like, yeah, that's pretty much what I'm gonna land my plane on. B1.
Thank you very much for giving us a call. She's gonna have to earn the right to be around here. You can't just show up here. You got to earn the right to do that. You have to earn that. And if she's going to be the little mixed chick, just be the little mixed chick. There's no shame in that. Just be the little mixed chick. But don't say you're going to be black when you want the black vote. And then when you stand in front of the Asians, oh, I'm Asian. Nope. Be the little mixed chick or be the Asian chick. But don't say you speak for us. We don't need it. We don't need you that bad. We don't. The civil rights generation did. We don't. Let me go ahead and see if I can get iPhone here. All right, iPhone, you are on. Go ahead and check your audio there for you. Okay, we're waiting on iPhone to get that straightened out. iPhone might want to pick his phone up here. Okay, I don't know what happened to iPhone. He was on, now he's not. All right, let's go see if we can get Brother Siddiqui. Let me go ahead and see if I can get Brother Siddiqui on here. Give Brother Siddiqui a moment here. Folks get on the Zoom and stuff. I guess they don't really believe they're going to get on or not. All right, Brother Siddiqui, go ahead and turn the camera and the audio on for me here. We can go ahead and see something. All I see is fingers in front of the camera there.
Peace, Black. Peace.
All right, Brother Siddiqui, what's on your mind?
Listen, when has she ever said that she was black? Besides her running for this campaign thing.
Yeah, you're going to find her mention it in passing, but as far as giving here's the real thing, and this is what you're getting to, her giving a speech or a talk about her experience as a black woman and a black person in this society. When she speaks about blackness, she's speaking about all of us. She doesn't tell her story and her experiences.
Yeah, that's just recently, though. That's recently. There's nothing in her past when she identifying or put on camera that she's a black woman. It's just like Denzel says, it's not about the color, it's about the culture. She ain't represent none of that, a family don't come out to say anything about them being black, half black, and nothing. She don't have no identification of relating to us as a culture, you know. To her whole characteristic don't identify and relate to us. So I don't know how they can, these other brothers and sisters out here continue to endorse her to being a black woman. You know, I was watching Trump rally that he had in Atlanta, and that sister McCalla, she spit some daggone fire, you know. Of course, you know, I'm not voting for neither one of them unless they passing off some kind of reparations, you know. That's my take on that whole scenario. But, you know, at the same time, there have to be, she has to be continue to be exposed that she's not us, you know. So like you said about the Tupac song, where's her soul in that? Well, how should she relate to any of that? You know, she can't relate to none of Tupac at all. You know, she's just throwing that out there as trying to have a connection to relate to the culture. She don't have. There ain't no way in the world she's gonna marry a white man and then turn around and play that kind of music in her household. It's no happening. I noticed that she don't even show her white stepchildren in another
well, she's posted them like on Instagram and stuff, but certainly she's certainly showing that side of the family when it's convenient, I guess. Here's the real thing though. What everybody needs to understand now is the day of the racial carpetbagger is over. This idea that you just gonna grab somebody from somewhere and say, hey, they 1/10 black, ain't you gonna support them and we just all fall lockstep in line? No, it's not gonna be that easy from here on in. The day of the racial carpetbagger is over.
Yeah, my son and his friends. My son is only 24, and they on it already. They're not playing that game. They flipping it, even though, you know, they choosing to say they're gonna go for Trump. You know, I can't, you know, persuade them any other way. But, you know, at the same time, they're conscious that she's a 52 fake out. So, you know, it's a good thing that some of our youth are out here, you know, flipping, you know, letting them know that she's not like us. So
eventually she's going to have to go somewhere and answer some real questions. And remember, 30 days ago, Kamala Harris was the most unpopular politician in America. As soon as the shine wears off here, she's going to go back and she'll be the most unpopular politician in America again. They're protecting her as long as they can right now, but it won't last. Let me go ahead and see if I can get Leilani up here. All right, Leilani, we're going to give you a few moments to go ahead and get everything up and going for us here. You've got your audio. All right, there you go, Leilani. All right, what's on your mind, Leilani?
Yes, I was just calling to say that I don't believe.
Turn your YouTube off, Leilani.
Okay, turn my YouTube off. I'm trying.
Just turn it off, because otherwise it'll just confuse you.
Okay.
Turn your YouTube off. Okay, Leilani, we're trying to move along here, so go ahead and just turn the YouTube player off.
Okay, that's what I'm trying to do. Turn off my YouTube. Okay.
Okay, Leilani, we're trying to move along here, so go ahead and just turn the YouTube player off. Okay, we're going to let Leilani go ahead and go here and see if she can figure out how to work that newfangled technology. Let me go ahead and see if I can get Kyle here on Zoom. All right, hey, Kyle, what's on your mind?
Yeah.
Turn your speakers off, Kyle.
Yep, Kamala Harris is definitely not black. Like you said, she got none of the experience. Black people used to being looked at as criminals. Every time you got to be twice as good to do anything when you black every day and you wake up and do this every day. It's definitely what you do. Some of these people sound crazy in the comments, somebody they still gonna vote for Kamala. If being black is what you do, Trump has appeared to be a million times more blacker than Kamala.
Well, I mean, let me go ahead and address that right quick. I want y'all to understand right now. Please remember 2020, I did my video about why black people don't support Kamala Harris. It was the #1 video on YouTube when you pulled up the name Kamala Harris. For about 2-3 weeks, it was the #1 video on YouTube when you pulled up her name. A few weeks after that, she's out of the race. They have never forgotten that. They're still holding a grudge. Go over there on my Twitter page. I've got hundreds of thousands of views on these things here. They have been watching it. They're very, very aware of it. And they're monitoring these things right now. So they're monitoring us. They're watching us. You have a whole lot of Democrat operatives. They understand that her position right now is just a honeymoon period. It's very fragile. I remind you, just 30 days ago when Joe Biden was still the nominee, she was the most unpopular candidate in America. If you don't think that her position is extremely fragile, you're just disregarding all of that. So they understand how fragile it is, and they're very protective of it.
She's done. And then all these people out here talking about reparations. Well, you can get reparations out your mind if you vote for Kamala. It's over with. She already said she wasn't doing nothing for no black people exclusively. So
please understand, the folks and the people who do support Kamala, they don't support Kamala from a black perspective. Not Roland Martin, not Bakari Sellers. What you have are a bunch of feckless, shameless opportunists. And they're hoping if Kamala get on, then maybe there'll be a seat for them and a lane for them. But they're looking at their own personal interests, not the group's interests. I'll let you have the last word.
Okay, and I want to say people need to look at this not through color, like it is. Being black is more now, in this day and age, it's more how you're treated, what you do. It was a video online, and the Chinese man was in court, and he told the judge, "You treat me like a black person." That's what being black is. Trump got shot, threw up the black fist. I liked that. I appreciate that. On the real. But yeah, that's all I want to say. Don't get fooled by these infiltrators.
Thank you very much for giving us a call tonight. Let me get Joe up here. Let me see if I can get Joe here on Zoom. All right, there's Joe there on Zoom. All right, brother, what's on your mind?
Hey, I'm Joe from Oregon, man. I appreciate you letting me on. I really do appreciate your broadcast, and I listen all the time. Thank you very much, man, for letting me on. In regards to the question, no, Kamala Harris is not black at all. Just because her father was born in Jamaica, just because she went to a historically black university, went to an actual black sorority, that doesn't mean anything at all. I pose it back to myself personally as far as like my father was born in Texas, didn't make me white at all. I went to University of Florida in Gainesville, historically white school. That doesn't make me white. I'm black. Also, I pledged a fraternity. It was a historically white fraternity, but they were really cool people and stuff. But it doesn't make me white at all. I've always been black. I've had the black experience. All my friends, my family, everybody around me is black. So I just want to put that out there that those things are just superficial things. It's really, there's a lot more to being black than that.
I definitely agree. Thank you very much for giving us a call tonight. Let me get Everett here. Did I get Everett already, or did I get Everett? Did I get you already here? If you are, no double dipping. I don't think I had Everett on here before. Let me see if I did here. Everett, go ahead and turn your camera on for us here. I'll give you 5 seconds for that. Okay, Everett was on there. No, Everett is not for some reason. Let's try one more time. All right, there you go, Everett. All right, what's on your mind?
All right, so this is perfect. Honestly, I'm gonna tell you something. I've never agreed with somebody more in my life and disagreed with somebody more in my life all in one. Yo, your show's brilliant. You're good. You're definitely needed.
Lie.
So here's what I'm gonna tell you. Kamala Harris is 100% black. I think we're having two different conversations. I'm FBA, by the way, Creole. So I'm so glad I'm on with you right now. Get ready for a roller coaster. So have you read her book? Kamala Harris's book. Have you read her book? You say 2020. You had you posted something to say.
Okay, brother. Well, in the interest of time, because we've been on for a while, can we just?
All right. All right, so you know she spoke about black being African American way back in the days.
Please
When she was
remember.
running-
Please remember with the just one caveat for that. Whether it's Barack Obama, whether it's Kamala Harris, or anybody else, please remember most of them did not actually write their books. They had ghostwriters. But go ahead.
Whatever. She even in her when she ran for attorney general, she said she was African American, right? So the
actually not.
construct that you're talking about-
Actually not, sir.
No, there's ads with it. You can pull them up. There's
Sir,
ads
yeah,
with it.
and everybody's been pulling up the ads and the news stories where she was described as South Asian Indian and said she was
Okay.
South Asian and Indian.
So we know black is a construct, social construct.
Black is not a
came from-
Black is not a construct.
It's a social construct. It was started by the forefathers of this country, right?
Okay, sir. It describes an incidental characteristic in a socio-political position.
No, wait, right. So you had your three tillers that you were talking about, right? Your cultural, race, and then what was the third one?
I mean, genetics, phenotype, and identity.
Genetics. Right. So genetics, she's black. Her father's Jamaican.
I mean,
So
look
you
here.
picture-
Let me deal with that right quick, because whether it
Go
was
ahead.
the founders in America or whether you can go to Africa, every place in the world has classification of people. Now, we don't particularly prescribe
The
to
Nemo
tribalism,
thing, right,
but everybody's got that. So that's not novel to Europeans or novel to America.
Right. So even Europeans are black if you really want to get down to the details of it. I'm asking.
You can't have them as black anymore for those three features.
No. But they have. They have
everybody.
Africa,
Just because
Africa.
everyone on the planet may have speciated from Africa, that doesn't give them black credentials.
Okay, cool. So long. Okay, I want to go through this step by step because I'm FBA, so I want you to know I'm FBA. And you confused me a little bit in the conversation because you were saying. One of the things I respect about what you're doing right now is I grew up in a generation. I'm NOI, by the way, too. So I grew up in a generation where we don't have these conversations in public, right? So I respect where we are right now having this conversation. But then you did say earlier in the program, we need to bring this out to the masses. I don't think that's a good thing. You had the one guy on there who was saying Trump is doing this to cause division, right? This conversation is about FBA. This is the FBA conversation, in my opinion.
No, that isn't what I said.
Okay, cool. So we disagree on that. That's fine. You think that we should let every white person know or Latino, whoever's out there, know our disagreements amongst us.
No, sir. No, sir. I did not say that. I don't know why you're saying that.
So correct me.
I'm talking about amongst. That's why I said tonight's conversation is among us.
But you did mention somewhere in the conversation that I think we need to eventually. If you're saying eventually, then maybe that's where I'm.
No, that we need to have we need to have a conversation among black people at large. About this idea of what is black. Does an HBCU make you black? And sororities and their place.
All right, cool. So respect. By the way, I'm letting you know, in part of this conversation, I'm going to want your enlightenment as well, because I'm not saying I'm right about everything, but because I told you I agree with a whole bunch of stuff you said, but disagree with a lot of it too. I believe she's black. The reason why I believe she's black from the construct of race. Right? From being in America, being born in America, she's black. I don't care what nobody in here says, that you can't tell me when she was 4, 5, 6, 7, going to school in Oakland, that she wasn't identified as black, that she didn't have to deal with identifying as black. We don't know if she was hopscotching, doing whatever she was doing at 5, 6, 7. Your first 5 years are the most important years of your life.
What we do know is that she doesn't have any testimony about it now.
No, you go read her book. She does have testimony in it.
Sir, literally, if those were true stories, she wouldn't be saying some of this weird ass awkward stuff she's saying now.
Okay, so now we get into what you were saying, which I agree with, was she's also Indian.
No.
Right.
Also phony. I'm telling you that if
No,
that
no,
if
well,
that
well, it
stuff
may
really
come off phony
happens,
to-
if that
it
stuff
may
really
come off-
happens, she'd be able to speak extemporaneously about it on her own. The only place you see it is in her book. She's not sitting up here giving you stories and talking to you when you talk to her.
I'm not disagreeing with you on that. I'm never disagree with you on that. What I'm telling you is she is multiracial. But by the way, there's no such thing as biracial. So I wish people would stop saying it. It's not a thing. There's no such thing as biracial.
Okay,
It's
but you cannot claim us and simultaneously claim multiracial.
You cannot claim us and then hold up, time out. You can claim us and we cannot expect you not to claim your mother.
Okay, let me try this one more time. You cannot claim us and then simultaneously claim you're multiracial, because by definition,
I get the argument.
Okay, sir, calm down. Because by definition, where's the multiracial group? Here's the issue. White society does not just induct everybody who walks through, and you don't get to play both sides of the fence. When white society, you're white or you're nothing. Asian society, you're Asian or you're nothing. You come over here with us, and then we allow people to sit here and play these damn mind games with us, and it's always been to our detriment. New rules. If you're not black, go be mixed, go be multiracial, but you cannot stand over here among us, claim to be among us, and then claim to be something else simultaneously, any more than you can claim to be a man and then claim to be some other gender simultaneously.
And I told you I was raised under the NOI, right? So my question to you is, at what understanding?
At what
and
understanding?
What teaching? At what understanding and what teaching? When does FBA, like what you're doing right now, educate those people instead of crucifying them?
We're doing it. We are doing it as we speak, sir.
No, I get you're doing it as you speak. What I'm telling you is Kamala Harris is 59 years old. That picture you put up when you were like, oh, she doesn't right now, she's contemplating what she's doing. Absolutely, she's contemplating it. Her father's Jamaican, her mother's Indian. Who are we, by the way, if she got pulled over in a car, anywhere she was at, Canada, America, anywhere else, you know what they saw in that picture? A black woman. Who cares what she's thinking? They saw a black woman. What I'm saying is, are we gonna teach and educate like the minister, who is, by the way, Caribbean, who's no different than Kamala, by the way.
He's worlds different than Kamala.
No. Your difference with him and Kamala is he contributed to the benefit of the community. And what I'm trying to tell you is
Louis Farrakhan has lived his life as a black person.
I'm on your side. I'm
agreeing
with you.
That's the difference between him and Kamala. He's lived that life.
I'm talking about the NOI educated people. They didn't shun them. What they did was they embraced the men. They knew they were flawed.
Okay, well, here's the thing. Here's the thing. I'm not the Nation of Islam.
No, I know you're not. You're not. That's why I said I agree with you.
I'm not the Nation of Islam. And what I will say is that's a nice edict to have. It really, really is. I'm educating people every day. I'm doing it right now. And the one thing we're saying here is there's a reason why you had the term tokens. The reason why somebody could be token black was because white society understood just looking like one of us was not enough. You could be a help and an ally of white supremacist society if your behavior was off code. So I want to remind you all that
you know who just did that?
Sir, calm down.
Just did that.
Okay,
Trump,
sir.
Sorry to interrupt.
I'm hosting my program.
Just did that.
Okay, sir. If you won't control yourself, I gotta check you. So I'm gonna ask you for the last time. I'm hosting my program, sir.
I apologize.
There's a reason why they have the phrase tokens, because white society has always acknowledged and understood that if the behavior component's not there, you're one of them and not one of us, no matter how you look. So I'm not making all this up, and that's not a social construct. It's mathematics. It's sociology, not a social construct. Kamala Harris has been black when convenient. Take a look at her daily life. That's not a black person's life or any black person that you know. If going to an HBCU, if she did that for black-centric reasons, then how in the hell did her life end up where it was? Which, by the way, if you take a look at where her life is today, it directly dovetails off of where it was before she went to Howard. You could literally remove Howard from the equation and you have absolutely no change.
That's not true. If you read her story, that's not true.
Okay, sir, you don't know what I mean by that. Let me go ahead and explain to you all exactly what I mean. Take a look at Kamala Harris's mother. What is Kamala Harris's mother? An academic?
Hindu.
An academic, a professional, and a woman who went experimenting outside of her race. And what is Kamala Harris? An academic, a professional, a foreign traveler, and she prioritized mating outside of her group.
Wait, and you're trying to tell me that's anti-black?
Okay, sir, tell me what part of blackness that is, and I'll agree with you.
Wait. So you're telling me that James Baldwin, who went outside of his country, outside of his race, was anti-black?
What I'm saying is that Kamala Harris's mother did not do what she did for pro-black reasons. And
you're blaming Kamala Harris.
Kamala Harris's mother did not do what she did for pro-black reasons. And the daughter has taken after the mother.
If you read the book, she tells you her mother said she's a black woman.
Okay, sir, so what you're saying is you want me to believe the propaganda book, What you're saying is you want me to ignore what she's done for the last 30 years and keep referencing some propagandistic book. No, I won't.
No, what I want you to do is, in your conversation earlier, when you were talking about multiracial kids, you were saying it's part about their teaching. I'm talking about teaching. I'm talking about educating. I'm FBA.
But sir, I think part of the problem here is you're a multiracial kid yourself.
I'm not multiracial.
You certainly look the part.
My mother and father are both black.
You certainly look the part.
About? What I'm telling you is that you have multiracial people. Okay, so when I bring up the multiracial thing, the reason why I bring it up is because you mentioned that you're from Louisiana, Shreveport. I actually lived in Shreveport. My father was on a military base in Shreveport. I got my sister was born in New Orleans. I'm Creole. I have people in my family, like you said, who look white but identify they sacrifice.
You're certainly hitting us with the light-skinned energy, but the point here, brother, is Kamala Harris's book carries no weight. I'm looking at her actions.
Forget the book. Let's talk about the experience. When you have a Hindu mom who says she's going to be identified as black no matter what, that tells me that her Jamaican father had an influence on her mother.
Okay, you're quoting from the book
again. Her mother says, just please, this spirit.
Sir, you're quoting from the book again.
No, I'm not on the book. I'm on her mother.
What part of Kamala Harris's life is black? What part of her life is black today?
Hold up, time out. I'm glad you brought that up. You know,
okay, sir, I'm hosting my program. In the interest of time, sir, what part of Kamala Harris's life is black today?
I'm about to tell you, waking up every day. Waking up, the fact that we're having this conversation, questioning her blackness, makes her black. The fact that listen, if you become successful, and by the way, and I really want everybody to understand this part because it really bothers me tremendously. People go through the prosecutor, she put a whole bunch of black people in jail. They wouldn't have did that. No black person would have did that. I find it really crazy in the black community. We don't think about all those drug dealers who were affecting the black community. And all those black victims, all those black mothers and fathers who were in court with her, go look it up, who wanted her to prosecute those drug dealers because they hurted the family. And based on her, if you know her history, in her head, she thought she was doing something good for the black community, cleaning it up. Go look at the history. Look at the history. Y'all don't want to look at the history. And y'all being fooled because what Donald Trump did was he walked down there and caused division. I'm FBA.
There you go.
I understand the difference between FBA and people who aren't. But what I don't like is people, us being fooled
Okay.
by a white supremacist who's trying to divide us. Now,
Brother,
now,
I think that tells us everything.
Okay, that's cool. And I'm gonna tell you.
Thank you very much for giving us a call. He's going long. I think we got the point there. By the way, a bunch of you black folks need to get locked up. All right. Y'all know this. Every time we come to this campaign season, remember that back in 2020, you had a bunch of folk call me up and say the same thing. Well, Jason, you know they was all guilty, right? It's okay that Biden passed that 3 strikes law. You know they was all guilty, right? Okay. All right. You knew that. Jason, why were you leaving it on that long? I was just waiting for that to come on up. I was waiting for that to come up. There it is. Well, you know they need to lock him up, right? Let me go ahead and see if I can get Andre here. Let me go ahead and see if I can get Andre up here. Andre, we'll give you a moment, see if we can get that going. And then we're going to have to move along. If he's on that Zimbabwe broadband, I'm going to have to move along here in just a moment. All right, we're going to give Andre 5 seconds here to get that straightened out, and then we got to move on. All right, Andre, I think we have you on here, sir. What's on your mind? Andre, you cannot be heard, sir. Check your audio again. I'm going to try Andre one more time here. I don't know how they complicate these things.
You hear me?
Yes, sir. We can hear you now.
Let me fix this.
Sounds like he's running a daycare. What's on your mind, sir?
Yes,
sir,
yes, I'm here.
Please hurry up here, sir. We're hosting a program.
Yeah, can you hear me? If you have to go, you can go, but I'm
all right, thank you. All right. He's he's trying to get the daycare organized over there, so I'm not gonna hold him very long. He's got important things to do here. Very important conversation for us to have here tonight. Do you think Kamala Harris is black? How do we define black? Do we even define it? You all can let me know here and in the comment section. After the program here post, you can let us know in the comment section, is blackness merely your appearance? You've had a number of folks who called in here tonight and said that black is the way we look. As long as you got the certain skin tone and a certain phenotype, that is blackness. That's it right there. So you all can let me know in the comment section, is that all it is? Because if it is, well, I guess Kamala Harris is black and we all just got to accept all this damn foolery that goes along with it. But if you say it goes deeper than that being black is deeper than that, and she not like us because she gonna go deeper than that, well, that's a different issue. So in the comments section, if you listen to this video live or recorded, you can go ahead and weigh in whether or not you think blackness is just the way we look. That's all blackness is. If you look a certain way, you black. Or do you say blackness goes much deeper? That'll be your opportunity to speak and weigh in on that. I want to thank everyone who has contributed toward tonight's program on PayPal, Super Chat, Venmo here. During the program, I didn't really want to interrupt to say anything, but I did want to acknowledge that. My man, Mr. Rich Bird, thank you very much for your support here. Mr. Wilburn, we've had a bunch of folk here tonight, so I appreciate that from all of you here. Bayou Billy has been gifted memberships tonight, so we appreciate that. Penny Ford, thank you very much for your support tonight, sister. We appreciate that. Thank you a million times. Also here as well. And if you are new, to everybody there in the super chat, thank you very much for your support. If you're new here to the Black Channel, welcome to the Haven of Intelligent Black Thought. We do this every weekend. Click that red subscribe button, click that yellow notification bell. Join us each and every time that we're here. The insight and analysis you'll receive absolutely nowhere else, as you've seen tonight here. This is the type of conversation that you are not going to witness or hear anywhere else, because we're the only ones who do that. If you haven't been to blackchannelfilms.com, go there and check out our groundbreaking best-selling documentary work, blackchannelfilms.com. And I want to thank all of you for joining us for tonight's program. Thank you for watching live or recorded. Thank you for liking, subscribing, and sharing. And this concludes tonight's broadcast of the Black Channel. I am your host, your brother, your humble servant, the Black Authority. And until next time, my brothers and my sisters from around the world, remember, Black is the future, and the future is uncompromising.